consistency are really, really good. Weather conditions have been absolutely perfect. And certainly are so this afternoon for this race. This morning, as yesterday morning, it's pretty foggy out there and pretty dodgy conditions for a little while, but that cleared up pretty quickly, and we're ready to go racing here, and I'm expecting a very, very exciting race over the next 2 hours and 40 minutes.
We're on the west coast, just a little bit inland from Monterey, California, and this circuit's just under 2¼ miles around with 11 corners, the Andretti hairpin, the rear hull straight, the corkscrew, all absolutely iconic places and good places to make passes as well. There's a little bit of everything here as we are getting ready in our countdown to green. We heard what the pole sitters were talking about. It's all going to be about the tyres. Porsche keys to the race. The tyres, will we be grip limited or fuel limited in the race this afternoon? 25 seconds in delta to drive down the pit lane, so you don't want to be going down there too often because the cars are ripping past you to your right hand side on the front straight, and you're going to lose something between 35 and 40 seconds on what is a relatively short lap here. Track limits, well, normally when we talk about track limits, we're talking about how the race control are policing it. Well, here, track limits is if you go off, you're probably going to stay off and maybe bring out a safety car. And what about fuel then? Well, we've seen some extraordinary fuel mileage races here down through the years. And remember, Richard Westbrook, particularly in the Chip Ganassi Ford, he's coming in for a pit stop. He has to come in for a pit stop. He has to come in for a pit stop, and he's going to win the race. It has been a bit like that at times. Shea Adams is our VP, Racing Fuel, Pit and Paddock reporter. Shea, bring us up to date with the news and what's the headlines as we go into this event.
Well, if you're just joining us for the first time this weekend, where have you been? We've been on track a ton already. A couple of driver changes of note in the 76 Compass Racing Acura. Jacob Abel, an HPD development driver, making his debut this weekend alongside the more than capable Mario Farnbacher. We've got a new Aston Martin in the GTD class. Two hearts are better than one, and Heart of Racing bringing out the 27 for Ian James and Alex Ramirez. Race winner here back in 2016 was Alex. And then one other notable driver change as far as all the classes go in the number 18 Era Motorsport LMP2 machine. Yes, we weren't expecting to necessarily have this car back running again this weekend. They were only going to be doing the endurance races, got lured out to race at Road America, won that race. They're lured out to race here again, and it is Dwight Merriman alongside the Scottish wonder Razzle Dazzle, Ryan Dial, trying to get another race win.
Couple of cars out of position, Jeremy, from their qualifying, and it may or may not affect their race in the next 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. The qualifying was very dramatic for the harder racing team, certainly for reasons which they didn't really expect. In the grid qualifying session, they had a good, sensible run there. They should have lined up in the third position. That would have been great. Unfortunately, in the second session, which determined the championship points, the car was fastest. Roscoe was fastest of all, but bizarrely, he got out of the car before the end of the session, and that's in contradiction to the rules. So he was thrown out from qualifying. They didn't do anything else to the car, but the rules are the rules, and therefore he got put to the back of the field. So he's going to start at the back. John Potter also will start at the back, having changed his tyres from qualifying. The good news for the Aston Martin team car number 23 is they do get last place points from that qualifying, so that's a lot better than having no points at all, particularly for the fact they are in a very tight battle for the championship, both overall and the Sprint Cup Series.
Yes, this is a round of the Sprint Cup. That is the companion piece, if you will, to the Endurance Championship. One for the long races, one for the shorter races. Guess which way around they are? No, you don't have to. The safety car is into the pit lane. We are ready to go racing. Stand by for action. the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship for the Hyundai Monterey SportsCar Championship race. 2 hours and 40 minutes on the clock, and a big jump by Philippe Albuquerque in the blue and black number 10 Konica Minolta Acura. It was an all Acura front row with Dave Cameron in second place, and he holds second place. Down the inside, the 01 Kevin Magnussen for the number 01, the light coloured Cadillac. Then it's Pipo Derani in the red and white Cadillac, the Whelan car, as we wait for the GTs to come through, led by number 3 of Jordan Taylor. They're off and running now as well, down towards the Andretti hairpin. Looks like a pretty clean start for them as they head through the corners for the first time. So first job done at the front of the field for the pole sitter, but that looks like a Heart of Racing Aston that's gone around. It is, and there's an Acura right in the middle of that as well, I think. So that is the new 27, the second entry. 2 hearts are better than 1. And I think that was the 44. No, it wasn't the 44 Magnus car, because that's a white car. But that's Roman. That is the Heart of Racing car that's at the back, the 27 car, Jeremy. And that car's not going anywhere at the moment.
It's not. Oh, it's fine. Okay, fine. He's finally got it fired up again. So that is good news. It's Ian James who started that car from the 7th position in the class in GCD. He's now having to do a 3-point turn to get back on track. So a disastrous start for that car. So we can see maybe what happened. Whoa.
Oh, big hit. And wheels being locked as well. Wheels being run together. So that was Ian James. So who was he around there? Was that the Compass Racing car, the 76? It must have been. I
think so, and I think it was pretty much the innocent victim. It looked like Ian James perhaps was kind of off on the dirt on the exit of the Andretti hairpin car, lost it coming back onto the track, and I think T-Bone, number 76, yeah, there's Jacob Abel limping his way back to the pits. So what a disappointing start to his IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship career.
Right rear suspension damage on that number 76. That is the Acura that I saw there, and Abel has made it back into the pit lane in that Acura for Compass. At the front of the field, the race goes on unabated because the track was not left blocked, and in fact we are going to a full course yellow now. This will be debris on the exit of the Andretti hairpin. There was an awful lot of carbon fibre there, and even though Ian James well, no, he hasn't resumed. That's the problem. He got the car off the track, but hasn't been able to get it moving again. Shea Adam is watching the restorative, we hope, pit stop to the Richard Mille sponsored Acura down in the pit lane. VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock Report.
And the heartbreak just goes on for this team that has definitely broken suspension bits. The right rear brake disc actually able to move around on the components, so that's going to be a lengthy fix if indeed they can repair it. But this team, they have such good people for Compass Racing. Heartbreak week after week, and just such bad luck once again. You've got to be feeling for them. For Carl and Jill Thompson, the team owners, they keep putting their heart and soul into this, and it's another race weekend of what could have been.
Yeah, not the way we wanted to start the race either. Looks like the AMR safety truck is already there. It wasn't just the debris, although there is a bit to be recovered there. There are some bits of carbon fibre. It looks like there's suspension damage on the right rear of that Heart of Racing Aston Martin Vantage as well. But the car being just off to driver's left there, Jeremy, heading down towards turn 3. There was no opportunity to do anything else other than to throw the full course yellow. In that, by the way, in GTD, Robbie Foley did nip through to the lead before the yellows came out for Turner Motorsport in the M6 GT3. And leads from Trent Hinman for Wright Motorsports. Paul Miller Racing in 3rd. That's Madison Snow in the Lamborghini. Zachary Robichon for Pfaff in the Plaid Porsche in 4th position. Corvette, Porsche, as you were in GT Le Mans, Dwight Merriman for Era Motorsports leads in LMP2 ahead of Stephen Thomas. So Ben Keating, who was on pole position, dropped down to third there ahead of John Ferrano. And at the front of the field, Albuquerque got a decent jump on Dane Cameron, who was on his outside. Kevin Magnussen just about holding on to third place. Pipo Derani in fourth. Then Tinknell for Mazda Motorsports has made up a position. He started in sixth, and that's where Tristan Vautier is now in the dark grey, number 5. The clean-up continues, and Shea Adam, the number 76 Acura, still not moving. I fear the worst for this car really early on.
No, they're not retiring yet. I've just had confirmation from Jill. They are going behind the wall because it's a toe link that's broken and the axle actually sheared off. So they are going to fix the car. It's just going to be a bit of a lengthy one.
And the reason they're taking off the pit lane is they can have more people working on it, and it's a far safer environment. It's on there still with the pneumatic jacks up, and they're on the dolly wheels so that they don't have to worry about the car having a bit of a mind of its own, and they can wheel it around. That's the most expensive shopping trolley in the world right now, and they're getting that behind the wall. So not the start, Jeremy Shaw, that we wanted, certainly not the start that Compass or Heart of Racing wanted either.
No, very disappointing way to start the race. Just messy all the way around, which is really, really unfortunate. We didn't really see what happened there, did we? Nor do we see what happened in P2 to figure out how Ben Keating managed to lose a couple of places there right off the bat, having been clearly the fastest guy in qualifying. He was tucked in behind the DPI cars heading over the crest and down towards Marandragora for the hairpin for the first time, but he's going to come away in third place. So as he was alluding to it when he spoke to Shea after getting the pole position yesterday, the race is not going to be as easy as some people might have thought.
No, it seldom is here. And as we said in our Porsche keys to the race in the Michelin Countdown to Green, if you get off onto the dirt, there's a heavy price to pay here. I'm not sure Ian James was that far off. Now, how he got there and whether he was helped, I can't tell you. But there was a little puff of dirt, and I think that spat him across the track to the detriment of that Acura. But you pay a heavy price here. It's very sandy, just off the edge of the circuit. There's an awful lot of places where there are no curbs to speak of, Jeremy, no runoff to speak of. Cold tyres, start of the race, everybody has got their dander up, and these accidents, not inevitable, but we've seen them plenty of times here.
We have, unfortunately, yes, and there must have been a fair bit of shuffling positions amongst the GTD contenders when they got down to the Marandragora hairpin on that first lap. We have a change of lead, obviously, with Robbie Foley taking the lead from the pole sitter Trent Inman. And then in the middle of the pack there, I think it was probably really, really tight. Richard Highstand ended up losing a couple of positions in all of that. Some people gained it, but the big loser, of course, is that Aston Martin car number 27 that started in the 7th position, but now is in the back. And he was, 3 places ahead of the Acura for Compass Racing. Just no luck at all for that Compass team. They've not had much luck at all this season, have they? It seems that everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. It certainly has at the beginning of this afternoon's race.
Well, the safety vehicle, emergency 1, coming down through the corkscrew. It does have a transponder on it, so I'll pick it up on the tracker heading back. So we'll be going to green, I believe, next time around. Safety car holding the field coming up to turn number 4 now. No pass around and no class split here. It is within the first 15 minutes, so this is what is termed a quick yellow. Actually, I may have been slightly optimistic there. That was a different safety vehicle than the one working down at the exit of turn number 2, and the flatbed has come around. It's like the Aston Martin Vantage is being loaded onto it, so the guys have done a very good job there. There is a cut through, if memory serves. There's a cut through if you turn left at turn 4. There's a way that you can get off the track there. It used to be, at least. It's the still there?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. It is, in fact, we used to sometimes stage a secondary safety car there. Again, back in the days. We've been coming here a very, very long time. through IMSA competition, right through the ALMS years. I think it's one of the ever-presents on the ALMS and IMSA calendar. Already 15 minutes down, and the Hyundai Monterey SportsCar Championship race has not got off to the start that we were hoping. I'm afraid, have seen the 76 Richard Mille Compass Acura NSX go behind the wall. Shea Adam in our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report that that car is going to be worked on.
And John, they do have some concerns about the transmission indeed as well, so it could wind up being day done for the crew, but they'll keep me in the loop and I will report to you as soon as I find out.
Thank you. Well, it looked like it took a hard hit on the side of the car, enough to break the rear toe link, and I think, Shea, you said it popped a drive shaft as well, had it?
It sheared the axle.
Oh, wow, okay, well, that was a significant... Yeah. It did get airborne for a moment, in fairness. Right, well, that cutout is not being utilised by the flatbed. Yeah, Ian James, just off the track to driver's right, spinning up the Michelins, and just couldn't... I don't think he was helped out there, Jeremy. He was just in front of one of the Porsches out there, which can't have been the right car, because that was much further up the field, so that must have been the Hardpoint EBM Rob Ferriel number 88 car. But I didn't see that he got pushed at any stage there, Ian James, just trying to make up positions early on in the lap.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Jacob Abel, he had made up a couple of positions on that first corner, getting past Rob Ferriel and somebody else as well, I think, on that first lap. But unfortunately, that ended up doing him a disservice, because he was then right in the middle of it when the number 27 car came back on the track, and absolutely nothing Jacob Abel could do about that. So really, really unfortunate for that car and for that team. So it'll go behind the wall, as Shea was saying, and just an opportunity perhaps to talk about that car. It's not much else to talk about at the moment. Once again, that car, if we saw it go behind the wall, we see that delivery on the side of that car. It's paying tribute to the visually impaired artist Jeff Hansen, who passed away last year at age 27 from neurofibromatosis, which is a genetic condition that had taken away his sight at the age of 12. But the Race Day Foundation, of which the Compass Racing team and Jill Beck in particular is a major fundraiser, they're trying to reach Jeff's goal of raising $10 million for charity by the time of his 30th birthday, which will be in 2023. And donations can be made to racedayfoundation.org /Jeff Hanson, JEFFHANSON.
Yeah, and opportunity to mark the sad death of Gordon Spice as well, who died earlier on this weekend after a battle with cancer. Multiple entrant and class winner at Le Mans, both in his own right as a driver, as a manufacturer and a team owner, and also a hugely successful career in IMSA racing, particularly at the Rolex and at Sebring. We pass on our condolences to his immediate family and indeed to his extended family in race paddocks around the world. Gordon Spice, who died at age 81 earlier this weekend, and rather appropriate, as I mentioned Gordon's name, that we went back to green and got a great sound of race car engines going across the start-finish line. We are back to racing, and Stephen Thomas going to the lead in LMP2 on the green flag. Philippe Albuquerque holds on to the lead at the front of the field. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, just a great note about Gordon Spice. I mean, he was the epitome of what would be now called a gentleman driver. He was not a professional driver per se. He was a businessman who was was an extremely good race car driver, and but his primary focus was his business, and very successfully was as well at that. So yeah, Gordy was a great guy, be greatly missed.
hours and 25 minutes to go. And still at the head of the field, 2 Acuras. Albuquerque goes through. Last lap down in the 1:17s. We've had super times this weekend, Jeremy, with all kinds of qualifying records going out the window. You were confidently predicting we might see the race lap record go. 17.8 in the early doors. We're not quite there yet.
No, we're not. The race lap record, a 16.66. It's a good bit warmer this afternoon than it was this morning in the warm-up. 75 degrees, I think, ambient temperature right now. So, got a part of 15 degrees or more warmer than it was this morning. But conditions for racing in general just about perfect right now. And there is the Turner Motorsport BMW liquid car out in front at the moment in GT Daytona. Leads the pole to the Trent Hinman by just a few car lengths. And, as usual, a long train of cars following behind him.
Yeah, and 46 degrees Celsius on the track. That's 114 Fahrenheit. I think that's probably the hottest we've seen so far this weekend. Sun's still pretty high in the sky. Ben Keating has got back to the lead in LMP2 in GT Daytona. But, a couple of Porsches, or a Porsche and a BMW rather, having a battle at the front of the field, with Robbie Foley in the BMW M6. That's the red, white and blue Molly Turner Motorsport car. Trent Hinman for Wright Motorsport in the blue Porsche in second, the 16 car. Then Paul Miller, red, white and black. That is the Madison Snow-driven Lamborghini. They go across the line now, and well up into the 140 mile an hour for the GT3 cars. Nominally the least quick of the classes that we have here this weekend, but they are very quick in a straight line. Don't rely quite as much on aerodynamics as some of the other categories. New fastest laps coming in. Cooper McNeil puts in the fastest GT Le Mans lap down at 1:24.660, and he's right in behind Tom Milner, barely 0.3 of a second. And that field of Corvette and WeatherTech Racing Porsche separated by just on half a second. Cooper McNeil has been very, very quick this weekend, Jeremy, both in the longer runs and his stint averages, but in qualifying he was mighty.
Yeah, what happened to that's what happened to the number 14 Acura. He was well, might say assaulted on the right side there by Richard Highstand in the Car-Bomber Peregrine Racing Audi. Just got to the side of number 14 car as it turned into the Andretti hairpin. Around goes number 14 car for a spin, and he's going to have to rejoin at the back of the pack.
So it drops down the field.
Look at that one, John.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Shit.
But John, the problem is that the sister car also dropped down to the back of the field that same lap. Frankie Montecalvo losing 3 positions in the same lap, so a horrible lap for the Lexus team.
Yeah, and they're both now on the front straight together. The Transformers Bumblebee sort of colours, those cars. The bright highlighter yellow and black machines just cresting the rise, the second of those cars. That is the number 14 machine going down into that first corner area. Second corner area, actually, turn 1 is the little kink on the front straight. So Frankie Montecalvo now running in 10th in GDT. Aaron Teelitz in the number 14 car running in 11th, and at the front of the field Albuquerque gets down to a 16.5. Jeremy, that record's gone. Make that a 16.4.
Yeah. Indeed, the old record 16.661 for Pablo Montoya. Last year's fastest lap was 16.67. Rengo van der Zande in the Cadillac. As you say, the last 2 laps, Philip Albuquerque has gone faster than that. The new record now, 16.459.
Shea Adam, as well as being our VP Racing Field Paddock reporter, also keeps an eye and an ear on race control. And well, when we have restarts, quite often that provides penalties. Shea, we talked about it in the Porsche Keys to the race. Who's going to be taking the 25-second run down the pit lane?
That would be Richard Highstand for a jumped restart drive-through penalty, but Unfortunately for Richard, the contact with Aaron Telix is also under review, and if race control deems that as being his fault, that would be a second drive-through penalty for the 39 Carbon Audi. The local team, remember Steve Dynan's shop, not too far away from here, and his co-driver Jeff Westphal, this part of the world is home.
Thank you, Shea. And we'll keep an eye on our Porsche keys to the race as we go through. Michelin post-race tech, of course, will follow this show. Hashtag Michelin PRT for that. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us here at the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre. One Heart of Racing Aston still running, but that car's dropped down the field as well, and that was the assault from, that's the 66, Till Bechtolsheimer in the Gradient Racing car down at turn 1. It's getting feisty out there earlier on, Jeremy. We've barely done a dozen laps and been quite a lot of incidents.
Very bizarre. I mean, all sorts of just weird driving going on, quite frankly. Totally uncalled for at this stage of the race. It's a 2-hour and 40-minute race, chaps, not 10 minutes. And we've seen some people just overstepping the marks. I don't know whether they're just getting overconfident or you know, it's a slippery track here. It's not an easy place to race at, and Richard Heistand has been. He lost a couple of positions on the opening lap, and he's been involved in 2 or 3 scrapes since then. Just served the first of his penalties, I think, at the completion of lap 11.
So contact with the number 23 Aston Martin being looked at by the race control as Richard Heistand is just coming out from serving his penalty for contact with the Lexus. So number 39 Audi Tyre Centre supported Audi Carbon car. That's back out as well. And Shea Adam has news of more penalties.
Richard Heistand, drive-through penalty, incident responsibility with Aaron Telix.
Well, he's just come out of the pits, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a second one, right? Okay.
It's a second one. He served the jump start. He still needs to serve the incident responsibility. And Till Bechtolsheimer, incident responsibility with Roman DeAngelis, drive-through for the 66 Gradient Acura as well.
Yeah, clear that was pretty slam dunk for all of those, Jeremy, having seen the evidence, and race control sees more there than we do in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre. But that said, I think they weren't the most difficult decisions that race control have ever had to make.
No, they'd be fairly grateful for that because it was pretty cut and dry. You say, here comes the number 39 car in again. I don't think that was a replay of what happened 1 lap ago. Indeed not. It's serving its second drive-through penalty, so he might just be able to serve this second penalty and remain on the lead lap, which would be certainly good news because there's still a long way to go in this race, of course, so plenty of time to bounce back.
On the lead lap for GT Daytona, where is the leader in GT Daytona? That is the number 96 car. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they might be able to. Till Bechtolsheimer also came in and through the pits to serve his stop, or at least drive through straight away. Till out now in 10th. Shame he just put in the fastest lap of the race a couple of laps before that, so it is Till Bechtolsheimer who has the fastest GTD lap on a 1:26.4. Jeremy, Till clearly fired up and having a good run, but just a little bit ambitious at the Mario Andretti hairpin and contact with the Heart of Racing Aston.
Yep, so reset there, and all those incidents have put Rob Ferriol up into 5th place in the class for Team Hardpoint in the Porsche.
Yeah.
Not running the EBM nomenclature this weekend. They've run the Team Hardpoint in association with the Earl Bamber Motorsport for the WeatherTech car beginning of the season. That was when the plan was to run 2 cars. They ended up just running the one, of course, for Rob Ferriol and Catherine Legg, but Team Hardpoint EBM still were represented on the other side of the of their shop, so to speak, at Indianapolis this weekend, where 3 rounds of the Porsche Carrera Cup North America took place. But Rob Ferreira then up into 5th place now, ahead of John Potter, who's taking advantage of all those other shenanigans behind him to run in 6th place, just ahead of recovering Aaron Tielitz.
Tristan Fortier into the pits from the front of the field. Shea Adam, take a look at that, and also tell us about the early pace of Till Bechtelsheimer. That was strategic. We talked about tyres in Michelin, countdown to green, and the Porsche keys to the race.
Splash of fuel and tires for Tristan Vautier, so that is the first of our qualifiers to come and get off of those tires and put on some fresh ones. But that's not necessary for Till Bechtelsheimer, because yesterday he went out, he did an outlap on his tires, came back and parked it. Mark Miller basically doing the same thing for the points strategy as well, because this team figured out if we don't change our starting tires, we maintain our position, and anybody else in class who changes the starting tires has to start behind us. Well, it worked out okay for them because they wound up starting in front of the 44 Magnus with Archangel Racing Acura. They were expecting a few more teams to move further back, but that's why Till has been so lightning quick so far today in that Acura, because he has basically brand new tires, whereas everybody else did 5, 6, 7, in some cases 9 laps on theirs during qualifying.
Hasn't worked out because of that drive through the pit lane, but he will be quick and is quick. When he gets back up to speed, he's a good second quicker than Frank Montecalvo ahead of him, Jeremy.
Yeah, but when you throw away it all with a needless incident like that, if you've got the speed, you've got to use it sensibly and not run into the side of somebody. So that's a great shame, because it clearly was a pretty good call. They made up. They're probably where they would have. They were where they would have been had they qualified. I think. No, I really don't think it made that much difference, but the penalty does make a huge difference.
Shea already getting questions on IMSA Radio, at IMSA Radio on Twitter, about drive times for this race.
Very simple in the pro categories, 10 minutes, so it's already been met. In the AM categories, 45 minutes.
Thank you very much indeed. So still a ways to go, a way to go for that. We started with 2 hours and 40 minutes on the clock. We're down to 2 hours and 13 minutes. Let's give you a quick in-race summary, Mazda in-race summary. I'll do that in a moment, as Till Bechtelsheimer lived by the dive down the inside at the hairpin dive by it, with Ben Keating being rather boisterous down there at the first major braking zone, Jeremy.
Yeah, bizarre. I mean, surely you could see the prototype diving down the inside. What's the point in closing the door? Is it way too late to do that? Ben Keating was absolutely already committed to the inside line. Thankfully, I think both cars got away without any damage. But hopefully, Till could do a kind of reset here, get his mind back on the game. I think he's probably flustered by that early incident. He's a very good driver who does not normally make mistakes, so he'll probably find himself a little bit flustered as a result of that drive-through penalty. And now, though, he's got to focus on the game at hand and keep it clean from here on.
Let's take a look at the Mazda in-race update here on IMSA Radio, also on XM202 for this race, as always, for the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship flag-to-flag coverage. And for those of you outside of the USA, we've got the video and the international call here on IMSARadio.com. Hit the live video tab and you can watch that flag to flag with no interruptions. GT Daytona, Turner Motorsport, BMW number 96, the white liquor Molly car leads by just half a second from Trent Hinman in the blue Porsche number 16 for Wright Motorsports. Second further back, the red, white and black Madison Snowdriven number 1 Lamborghini Huracan. He's got half a second on Zach Robichon in the number 9. That's the plaid Porsche from Pfaff Motorsports. Team Hardpoint, EBM with Rob Foriel behind the wheel of the number 88 is another 6 seconds further back, and that is your top 5 in GT Daytona. GT Le Mans, Corvette, WeatherTech Racing, and that is 3, 4 and 79. LMP2, Ben Keating, another hit for Ben Keating, this time on the number 12. The number 12 Lexus, driven by Frank Montecalvo, the Vasser Sullivan car, coming down the hill to turn number 10, diving down the inside on the blind side of Montecalvo. This is very bizarre. Has everybody forgotten how to drive? It's not been that long since they've been in the cockpit. In LMP2, Ben Keating leads by 4.7 seconds from Stephen Thomas in the Win Autosport car. So that's the Win's coloured car from the Win Autosport car, which is the number 11 machine. Then it is Dwight Merriman for the Blue Era Motorsport, number 18, John Ferrano for Tower. And in DPI, we've already had a stopper, remember. Tristan Fortier coming in early, just setting his car's fastest lap of the race with the 1:17.118. We're at the front of the field with a new race lap record. Philippe Albuquerque, best lap of a 1:16.4, and he leads for Acura in a 1-2 for Cunningham Minolta and Mershank Racing. The 10 and the 60 then ahead by around about 5 seconds further back. The first of the Cadillacs, the 01 car, driven by Kevin Magnussen, who's still under, well, a little bit of threat. 2 seconds further back, Durrani, Harry Tinknell, just 0.3 of a second behind the Wheel and Engineering red and white number 31. Shea Adam, incidents, accidents, controversy, what's going on in race control? They're not getting a quiet afternoon, are they?
No, they're not. And the replay guy is getting his money worth today. The incident between Ben Keating and Frank Montecalvo that ushered Frankie off the track, reviewed, no further action. So they are looking at everything happening on the track, even if they're not necessarily calling penalties on it.
Hello to Mike, who's tweeted in at IMSA Radio. He's missed the last few races for various reasons. He says, great to hear you guys coming through my speakers again. Really enjoying it. Hope you're watching and listening, Mike. Not sure where you are in the world, but thank you for your support. Keep the tweets coming in to the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. It is at IMSA Radio. Dare we say we'll take a breath here, Jeremy, with 2 hours and 9 minutes to go after that Mazda in-race update, and try and make sense of what we've seen so far. Harry Tinknell trying to make up some positions, as he did get up to 5th, didn't he, before Fortier pitted, and he's sitting on the back of Pipo Durrani at the moment, so that's a bit of a battle going on. They're coming down the hill through turn number 9 at the moment, and they've got a wee bit of traffic in front of them.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think there's any dramas there. We see the race leader, Philip Albuquerque, he's very much in control of this, as are the two Acuras. We've got a pretty handy lead now over the best of the Cadillacs. That's Kevin Magnussen. Pipo Durrani, as you say, he's right in pretty much behind it, Kevin Magnussen. And the Harry Tinknell car, as Durrani comes into the pits just now, maybe he feels he's got a faster car and he can come in and get some fresh tires and get out and kind of undercut the 01 car. I was just going to say, though, that Harry Tinknell definitely seems to be a bit quicker than both of those two Cadillacs, but was bottled up behind the both of them. He'd remained very, very close to the tail end of the number 31 car, but now the 31 car is out of the way, at least as far as Tinknell is concerned. We'll see whether Harry can make a move on Kevin Magnussen. Can't imagine that's going to be any easier. But yeah, it's early enough now for the prototype cars, as we saw the number 5 car lead the way in that, in terms of that strategy, to come in and still reach the end of the pits, this end of the race with 3 pit stops.
Yeah, and that was the 31 car, Pipo Durrani, coming into the pits that freed Harry Tinknell up. So the Whelen car in and out of the pits. Shea Adam, does that seem a little bit early?
It does, but they also were in the pit lane for 46 seconds, whereas the 5 car was in for 47. So they took fuel and tires, same as the 5 Mustang sampling. As far as DPIs, though, we've got 2 other cars in the pit lane, the 01 of Kevin Magnussen and the 55 of Harry Tinknell, both in for service as well. Interesting that we haven't seen a driver change yet. Tristan Vautier and Pipo Durrani both could have gotten out of the cars, having finished with the minimum drive time. Now, if you've got a guy by the name of Renger van de Zande, who made a really good pass here a few years ago, I might be inclined to put him in. No offense to Kevin Magnussen, at the very least. But indeed, it's just a drinks bottle change and a windshield tear-off for Harry Tinknell. He is staying in for a little bit longer. Pit board goes up. Ooh, both of them rolling out at the same time. The Mazda beats the Cadillac back out. That's a change of position on the pit lane. And guess what? No driver changes.
Yeah, and that was a smart piece of work by the Multimatic team running that Mazda That was his track position that they have gained in the pit lane. He was a couple of seconds behind on the track when he came in. Jeremy goes out in front, and now, of course, this may well just set off a chain reaction. Albuquerque coming round will not pit this time around. He goes through. I mean, he's only been out some 40 minutes now, of which 6 laps of that was under yellow, so he has got VP Racing fuel left, but he's in that rather tricky situation right now, our leader of the race, coming out of the Mario Andretti hairpin, where if a safety car was to come out now, it potentially could disadvantage him.
Yes, but he's got last time around 4.4 second lead, 3.9 to come across the line this time to complete lap 22. He's got a pretty handy lead there, so he's not going to be undercut by those other cars, at least not just yet. He's fast enough to be able to stay out there, see what sort of pace the other cars can do on a fresh set of tyres, and then react if necessary. But right now, he's running comfortably. He's out in the lead. He's on his own, unchallenged. The Cadillac's back ahead of the Mazda. So that strategy has not worked out then in favour of the Mazda. Didn't we see that number 55 car get ahead of the 01 coming out of the pit lane?
It was on the pit stop, yes, as I was saying. Shea reported that, and that was a clever bit of track position gained for Harry Tinknell by the Multimatic team. But on the track, Kevin Magnussen has retaken that position. That's 5th position now. Remember, Tristan Fortier was the first of the TBIs to stop. He's now back up into 4th, having been able to use the performance potential of new Michelin rubber and get that advantage. Leader Shea Adam in the pit lane. Here comes Philippe Albuquerque, and Dane Cameron goes through to complete another lap.
This is making me nervous, though, John, because Pipo Derani is out there, and someone has lit the fuse on the end of the Pipo Dynamite stick. He has gone personal best in each, in the first sector, and he set his best lap time the last time around. They are giving 4 new tires to Philippe Albuquerque. No way they're going to let him out of the car quite yet. You heard in the Countdown to Green interview how much he annoys the people on the pit box when he's not in the car. So they've said, hey, Philippe, you keep driving for now. We'll see how this goes. But where is Philippe going to come out in relation to Pipo Derani? Answer, still ahead? Yeah, still ahead comfortably.
Yeah, Derani just coming down the front straight now and into the hairpin. He'll be coming out of it now. Now he will have a little bit of pace advantage as he comes out here, just until the number 10 car gets its tyres back up to temperature and pressure. No tyre warming allowed in terms of blankets. Leave them out in the sun if you've got any sense, and let the UV do the work for you. So Dane Cameron is leading in the number 60. He's gone through for another lap. Jeremy Cameron staying out, must be liking the tyres on the Mershank Racing Acura DPI. An 18.6 last time around. The problem is people are doing 16.5s, and Fortier has just done a 16.3 in the number 5 Mustang sampling car. That's another new lap record.
It is indeed, and it's a little bit risky at this stage, certainly for Dane Cameron, but the team will be hopefully paying close attention to what these other cars are doing, and there's still a long way to go in this race, and clearly fresh tyres is worth a lot, but they at this stage feel it's okay to stay out there and run a full tank of fuel, it would appear, on this first stint. They wouldn't need to come in just yet, but you and Shea talked about that earlier on, the fact that your tyres are kind of more important in terms of a stint length than is fuel here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Just a note that Till Bechtelsheimer has been in and out of the pits. He did get by Frank Montecalvo before he came into the pits. After that great run, he's still got the fastest lap in GT detail, so he's been in and out of the pits. Came in, about a lap ago now, so too early to change, but he has gone back out again. We'll check his lap times, see if we can check in with the team and find out if there was an issue there, or if that was just tactical to run that car on its relatively new tyres that did no work in qualifying deeper into the race. GT Le Mans, Jordan Taylor from Corvette leads Tom Milner by 1.8 seconds now. Cooper McNeil can stop any time he wants now, but he'll be going, I would expect him to go for another 2 or 3 laps, get it down under the 2-hour mark for his run in this one, but he's doing a sterling job there. And in GT Daytona, Robbie Foley still leads the Turner Motorsport in the BMW, whilst at the front of the field we're still waiting for the pink and black Sirius XM livery on the Meyershank Acura to peel off in the pit lane. He's at turn 10 now. Oh, faked me out there, Dean. Thought he was going into the pit lane and stayed out. Ahead of him, he has one of the LMP2 cars. That's the number 11 Win Autosport car of Stephen Thomas. Deals with that fairly easily. But Thomas coming back at him under braking, that suggests to me the state of the tyres on that leading Acura possibly not quite where they want to be. Dean just managing the tyres there. It's not just about getting through and off the corners, Jeremy. When your tyres and your tyre performance starts to go away, it's the braking into the corners as well that suffers.
Indeed so. And he's clearly he's running at least a couple of seconds off what he was capable of doing earlier on, even though the fact he's working through his way through traffic. Obviously, we're just slowing up somewhat still, but there's no doubt that fresh tyres are worth a goodly amount of time around here, and that's what Tristan Vautier in particular has taken full advantage of. He was the first one to pit on lap 14, so he was in a full 6 laps before the next car, which is number 31 car. But let's not bear in mind, if we go green to the end of the race here, he's going to have to run long stints every time. So towards the end of those stints, he's going to be struggling. And I fancy that kind of equalising the stints as number 31, 10, and 55 have done in particular, that could well end up to their favour. But number 10 car, I think, is in really good shape right now. He's still got a handy lead over Pipo Derani.
Just listening to the engine note on Dane Cameron, he's lifting off the throttle at about the brow of the hill and coasting down the hill into the Mario Andretti hairpin. Now, that will save him some fuel, and as we said in our Porsche Keys to the Race, you can save fuel here, but it's also putting way less energy into the Michelin tyres. So he's coasting down that hill and applying the brakes far more gently rather than keeping on the throttle, arriving there quicker. That's why his lap times have gone out to 18.5s even in clear air, and Kevin Magnussen's just done a 16.3. How about Harry Tinknell? New lap record for Mazda, 16.3, as he tries to gain on the cars ahead of him. That's another new lap record. Really different strategies being played out here, Jeremy, with people saving their tyres and fuel at some parts of the DPI field, notably Dane Cameron, Kevin Magnussen, Tristan Vautier, and certainly Harry Tinknell. They are caning their cars and their Michelin tyres at the moment.
Yeah, really rather interesting at the moment, because I wonder whether if Dane can carry on doing something like this and turning reasonably good lap times, can he save himself a fuel stop during this race? It certainly isn't inconceivable, and there's a lot of smart people on this Meyershank Racing pit wall, and they'll be paying close attention to the fuel mileage, to how the tyres are doing, how long there is to go in the race, and all sorts of other factors as well. But Dane Cameron is doing, as he was in the last race at Road America, out in front and looking good. The fuel strategy did not work out in their favour last month when they were obliged to make a pit stop before the end of the race. But right now they're running a completely opposite strategy to that and running long on this first stint.
11 minutes of full course yellow and safety car at the start of this race after the coming together of the Heart of Racing Aston Martin, the number 27 car, and the Compass Racing Acura. Shea Adam, we're talking about strategy there. What's happening in the other classes? GT Le Mans and the 2 Corvettes, are they playing the same strategic games?
No, to be perfectly honest, Corvette Racing went with 2 different strategies for the 2 different cars, and that's what we're seeing play out with the maintained gap between the 2 of them, the 3 car and the 4 car, deciding very early on to go 2 very different ways and see, well, which one works out better. But Cooper McNeil did bring in the 79 WeatherTech Racing Porsche, handed that over to Matt Campbell, who was 20 seconds off of the Corvettes. We'll have to see when the Corvettes make their pit stops what that shakes back out to. And on how close Matt is to the battle. But we've also got 3 of the 4 classes with their leaders together at the same part of the track. Overall in DPI, GTLM and GTD running pretty much together on the circuit, and the pit window is going to open next time around for the GTD and LMP2 competitors as far as minimum drive time will have been met.
Matt Campbell has been installed in the WeatherTech racing car after that stop by Cooper McNeil. Let's see which of the GTDs come in. Hearing from the Gradient team, that was purely strategic to bring in Till Bechtolsheimer. There wasn't any problems with the car. He's feeling good. He was quick. He's still got the quickest GT Daytona lap. So let's see what happens when the 45 minutes are up, which they will be in 26 seconds. Shea Adam, this is playing the long game by Andres, the man on the pit box for Gradient with the brain the size of a planet.
Well, it is, but it was also precipitated by a need to pit due to damage to fix the front right of that car. They are seeing tire smoke from the damage. It is still an issue, and they are missing the whole right front of that car as they had to rip it off. It was flopping around and causing some issues for the car and the driver. So Till getting to do a double today, but that wasn't exactly in the game plan to begin with.
Sometimes when you've got lemons, you have to go and double stint them. That's the way it works. So we're coming down now. We are under an hour and 55 to go, which means the 45 minutes has been met from the drive time for the non-pro classes. And we'll see who takes the opportunity to come into the pit lane. And straight away from the lead of the clash, Shea Adam, we've got the Turner BMW.
We've got Robbie Foley in, and when you have a Bill Oberlin sitting on your pit box, you install the Bill Oberlin to the race car. It is a simple law of physics. They are giving him 4 new Michelin tires, and Bill Oberlin very fired up after a rousing performance yesterday in the Turner Motorsport BMW, looking to try and finish the job that he started, 20-odd hours ago. The tire change is done, the fueling is done. Bill reaches over to reset the fuel number, and away he goes. Also into the pit lane, Roman DeAngelis in the 23 Heart of Racing Aston Martin. That will be Ross Gunn, the fastest man yesterday in GTD qualifying, taking over in the 44 Magnus with Archangel Racing Acura. Stand back, ladies and gentlemen. Andy Lally is being installed to that one. And we've got Frankie Montecalvo in the pit lane in the number 12 Lexus as well. Fuel and tires, as well as a driver change at Zach Beach behind the wheel of the Lexus. In LMP2, Ben Keating brought in the 52 PR1 Matheson machine, handing over to Mikkel Jensen. So that's going to be a fast car for Mikkel's first racing laps around WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And also in is none other than Stephen Thomas in the 11 Win Autosport machine. And congratulations to Tristan Nunez, who's taking over. He recently got engaged. Our little boy's grown up so fast. Tristan, very quick around this racetrack. He's gotten pole here a few times before, but never that illustrious win. So he's trying to get that done.
Hello to Gareth Evans, who's just come back from a week in Scotland and spending the evening with us on the screens in the man cave, doing a bit of model making there, which is what he does when he's watching and listening to the IMSA broadcasts. Hello to Alan Prosser and Ian McCarthy as well, who've tweeted us at IMSA Radio. Hardpoint in as well, Shea Adam, and they just had a wee bit of a problem coming down into the pit lane a few moments ago, coming down into turn 10. A complete spin for the champion Porsche and Richard Mille supported number 88 Hardpoint machine.
You know what a smile it puts on my face to hear the words champion Porsche, don't you, John? Yeah, and it's my girl Kat Legg who's taken over the car. Has not moved yet, though. This is an issue for the 88 machine. They put 4 tires on it. They put Kat in the car. Now she rolls away, but that was way too long of a stop. The pit stop in and of itself for Team Hardpoint was fantastic, but then the reluctancy for the car to get moving once again, that was unexpected. Have to see when the time pops up. Yeah, 1 minute and 13 in the pits compared to, say, Andy Lally's pit lane delta, which was 1 minute and 2, so 11 seconds lost on that one. Also of note, Aero Motorsport, Dwight Meriden has done his drive time. It's all up to Ryan Dial from here on out.
Shane Adam with that VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report. Dane Cameron, Jeremy, still out there. And still, well, his lap times are in the 19s last time around, but this is a very impressive run. Has not yet stopped. He's the only one of the DPIs who hasn't. They're going for a completely different strategy to everyone else. I love what this racetrack does to people and how it makes people think differently.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? And a couple of slow laps, but then a couple of quick laps in the 18s, which is pretty respectable. Philip Albuquerque, though, he's got the hurry on in second position. He's just reset fastest lap of the race and a new record, a 1:16.15. He did that last time around. So he's got the hurry on now. He's 24 seconds behind Dane Cameron at the moment. Pipo Derani remains in third. Kevin Magnussen has got past a couple of laps ago Tristan Vautier. There's just been lost a lot of ground, but Harry Ticknell remains stuck behind Vautier now, so it's not been a good race for Mazda at all so far. It looked like they got out of the pits ahead of the 0-1 car, but since then it's all gone wrong. Well, not all gone wrong, but it's not going right for number 55 too. They've got a fast car, I think, but they haven't been able to show it yet.
Yeah, they've been close and closer and closest here at this WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca circuit, with which Mazda, of course, had a long association for many, many years. Harry Tinknell, in particular, will feel that this place owes him 1 or possibly 2, as we're expecting the GTM leader in this time around. How about a 16 flat now for your new lap record, Jeremy? The DPI drivers sharing it out amongst themselves in Special K. Kevin Magnussen in the 0-1 Cadillac this time, who takes it?
Yeah, this is really rather interesting, isn't it, to see how it's been traded around. I mean, I think, have all the cars now set new fastest lap race? The 10 has, the 5 has, the 55 has, and the 0-1. So I think the number 31 car is the only car that hasn't at some stage or another set a new lap record here, which is really, really interesting. That is the car that's won the last 2 races and is the form car in the championship. So really, really interesting at this stage. Again, we see the that's the leader in GTD pulling off to make his pit stop after 32 laps. Trent Hinman brings that car into the pit lane. Number 1 and number 9 car, they still remain out there in what is now first and second. Aaron Tielitz is up to third place in the class, having had that problem earlier on. And then behind him is going to be, awesome Bill Oberlin from Redondo Beach, California. I think he's going to be awfully difficult to beat in this race, I think, right now.
As predicted, the Corvette number 3 came in. Antonio Garcia has gone out. We'll get an update on that. The 1 and the 9 that Jeremy was talking about, the Lamborghini of Paul Miller Racing and the Pfaff Motorsports Porsche, driven by, respectively, Madison Snow and Zachary Robichon. Shea, give us a VP Racing Fuel update on those last few pit stops, including then the Wright Porsche and the Corvette number 3.
Well, it's nice and simple for the Corvette. Antonio Garcia bringing the car out of the pit lane after Jordan Taylor started from pole position and led all of his stint. We should see Tommy Milner staying out for a little bit longer. Remember, split strategies for the 2 separate Corvette racing machines. I'm interested to see where Antonio actually cycles out in relation to Matt Campbell and how much that gap has come down. But remember what I said about if you have a Bill Oberlin on your pit stand, you put him in your car. If you have a Patrick Long on your pit stand, you put him in your car. And that's exactly what Wright Motorsport has done by bringing in Trent Hinman. Great first stint, again, leading from the pole for a few laps at least. He got to lead the race, and now they have California man himself into that car. In comes the number 9 Pfaff Motorsport Porsche. Saw the Pfaff dealership last weekend, and it still looks as beautiful as always. But they are taking Zach out, putting Larry in, and Larry knows how to win at this racetrack, having done it in the GTLM class a year ago. It's a nice, clean stop for the Pfaff mechanics. Tires done well before the fuel, just waiting on every last drop. They're actually cleaning out some of the grates. Interesting. You don't think about there being a lot of debris around this track, but I suppose there is by this stage of the race, and the fueling's still going on now. The probe comes out, and it was just under 40 seconds worth of fuel, so almost a complete fuel load needed for the PAF Porsche.
Thanks, Shay, for that VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report. Well, no extra VP Racing Fuel required for Dane Cameron. He is, well, VP Racing Fuel is making power. I think Dane Cameron is making fuel at the moment, some form of osmosis. He is still out there and been out for 55 minutes. It is, of course, assisted by what, half a dozen laps at the start of the race that were under safety car conditions, but that still is a very nice run indeed. He's gapped back to second place now. Philippe Albuquerque has been trimmed to just under 17 seconds, but he's back under the 119s again, Jeremy. 118.8 last time around. That's a couple of seconds slower than that car it is, or could go if it was flat out. But what he's doing here, somebody's worked out the strategy here to, it must be to try and save a complete pit stop. That's all I can think.
I think so too, because over the course of the last 13, 14 laps, he's lost half of his lead, or 12 laps. It was 33 seconds, it's now 16. So the gap between first and second has halved. But as you say, if he can keep going at a good pace now and save that pit stop, that could work out in their favour at the end of the race. Now, finally, after 38 laps and 55 minutes, that's the longest run we've seen by a DPI car for a long, long time, Dane Cameron's going to bring that number 60 car into the pits.
Shea Adam has the news from on this pit stop and a couple of others.
Green helmet up on the pit wall, and since both drivers have green helmets, I can tell you that it's Olivier Ploix on the pit wall since Dane Cameron was in the car. His day might not be done yet, though. They might do a swap back at the end of this one, so keep your eyes peeled out for that. Meyer Shank Racing, 4 tires and fuel, as well as release the Olivier, as you do. Also into the pit lane during this cycle, we've seen the 14 Lexus. It's Jack Hawksworth. He's the only driver for Lexus who's done every single race at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Best finish of 7th in 2018. This has been a very difficult track for them in the past, but all the Lexus drivers feeling a bit better about their chances today. And just one quick update in regard to the 88 Cat Leg. We saw struggling to get the Team Hardpoint Porsche to move out of its pit box. It did not want to go in gear. That makes me really nervous for their remaining pit stop this race.
Yeah, that was the little stutter that Shea was talking about. The work was done on the car. Ideally, you should be able to get the driver change done and the tyres changed whilst you're putting in the VP Racing fuel, and that then should be the determining factor in terms of time. The last thing you want to see coming out is the fuel hose, and that should be the signal, sorry, brain went dead there for a moment, to the driver that you are ready to go. Expect to see the GT Daytona leader, Paul Miller Racing, the #1 Lamborghini, and Madison Snow in this time around. And even as the words are coming out of my mouth, he's committed to the pit lane, gets it down the pit lane speed limit, and then make sure he takes a nice line through what is a tricky entrance in that little left-hander. We've seen people in the wall there before. Shea Adam, last of the GTDs to make their first pit stop.
John, you've got to teach me how you did that. You made Madison listen to you that time and actually do what he was told. Right side tires going on first. Then they will do 4 new Michelins, all in all, with the left sides to go on last. Brian Sellers. Again, if you have a Brian Sellers in your accessory collection, please install him into the car at the first available moment. He will be taking over to try and take this car to the checkered flag. The last time that Brian Sellers raced a Lamborghini at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, he brought it home for a win. That was alongside Corey Lewis with Formula Racing in 2019. Fueling is done, new tires are on, and Brian wants to go out and play.
And that was a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier on. It was the fuel hose that determined the length of the stop. The second of the Corvettes coming in. Shea Adam telling us in our VP Racing Fuel Pit Paddock report that they are running a split strategy. So Tom Milner is now in, Shea.
and he will be staying in because it is Tandy time. Nick Tandy is getting aboard the number 4 Corvette. So for Brittany, Eva, and Felix, it's time to get excited about that silver and yellow machine waiting on the fuel. I know it's gray. I like calling it silver. Sorry. They were checking the diffuser there. Interesting. After the work had finished, the car was used for fuel probe, and away goes Nick.
It's a car that has had some handling problems in the in the last few races. The grey and yellow car is back out onto the pit lane. Back to the top of the timing screen. Philippe Albuquerque, Jeremy, for Konica Minolta, and Philippe Albuquerque back to the top of the timing screen.
Yeah, with nothing like the same advantage he had earlier on either. He leads by only a second or so over Pipo Derani. Kevin Magnussen, having got past the number 5 car, just left the number 5 car for Denham. He was pulling away 2 or 3 seconds a lap. And Harry Tickler was stuck behind the number 5 car until just a lap or two ago he's finally found a way past. But he's a long way behind the rest of the pack. So the first 3 all pretty close. They're 21 seconds back to Harry Ticknell in 4th position. Then the struggle in Tristan Vietti clearly struggled with those tyres. Now Ollie Pla, even with that strategy, Ollie Pla is still a full 10 seconds behind Tristan Vautier, who's now 40 seconds behind the leader. Okay, potentially, perhaps he has a pit stop in hand. It certainly seems a long way to the end of the race for now, for number 16. In a couple of notes, Mikkel Jensen had set a new race lap record in LMP2, which has now been eclipsed by Ryan Dalziel. 1:16.80 then for Ryan Dalziel. The old mark was set last year by Simon Trummer at a 17.422, so 16.8 for Ryan Dalziel. Bearing in mind that the existing DPI record coming into this race was a 16.661. Ryan Dalziel now within a couple of tenths of a second of that. That's pretty remarkable. That's the good news. The bad news is he's currently 42 seconds behind Mikkel Jensen, who is leading the class in number 52 PR1 Matheson Motorsports car.
Jeremy Shaw, who is with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre, just over 150 miles an hour for the leader as he heads down towards the first braking area on the 2.25 mile lap. Hello to Ward Rasheen, who is watching from a drizzly Calgary, saying hello to all his friends in Monterey, particularly Carol and Kevin Brink. He'll be tuned in as well on either IMSA Radio or on XM202. Every one of our races for the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, by the way, live and uninterrupted on Sirius XM. We'll always be tweeting out the channels on the race weekend and talking about on our broadcast. If you aren't so equipped, then go to IMSARadio.com and click the listen live. And if you're outside the US, we've got plenty of live video for you as well. All the developmental races actually available in the US as well, plus qualifying for the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. Of course, our colleagues over at NBCSN doing a sterling job on the races, which is where you can see it in the US. But if you're outside of the US, then just hit the live video tab and you'll be able to watch it uninterrupted. So only a handful of starting drivers still in as we are coming down to, well, about 15 minutes, 16 minutes away from half distance. And this one settling in nicely now, Jeremy, after a little bit of a fraught start. Albuquerque has just pulled out a little bit of time, 8 tenths last time around, as Vautier back into the pits. Now, he was the first one to pit in the first set of pit stops for the DPIs. This is a more usual stint. It's all been green, and that's just under 40 minutes, Jeremy. You happy with that for a full green stint for Vautier and Mustang sampling the Cadillac number 5?
Yes, except for the fact he was really struggling towards the end of it.
Oh, he spun coming in the pits. He has spun it coming in the pits, just what we were talking about.
I was going to say he had a lack of grip towards the end there, not even enough grip to get to the pit stall, so that's going to be even more costly. But yeah, I think that's the risk you play when you come in that early, because you then got to stretch your fuel all the way through. And as we saw with Dane Cameron out in front, you're losing a couple of seconds per lap to the other contenders by doing that. The other four cars in DPI, they kind of split their window at least somewhat. The number 60 car went a lot further than everybody else. He went for 15 laps more than even the number 10 car. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out towards the end of the race. I think 40 minutes is about the limit you can go in one of these cars, but whether you want to do that is debatable at this stage for me.
Yeah. Well, I have to see who's got the calculations right. It's as simple as that. I sort of applaud them though, Jeremy. If you do the same as everybody else, you're going to get the same result. We've got those guys going early and trying to keep the pace up, burning that Michelin tyres off and not to getting the full performance through the stint. You've got the Shank Racing guys going long and trying to save a bit of fuel and save some performance in their tyres, and everybody else kind of doing something in the middle and going absolutely flat out, just trying to race and trying to make up a 10th here and a 10th there. And Magnussen's got Durrani in his sights now. If the battle for second, it's only half a second.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if that, you're right. And Philip Albuquerque, he stretched that lead just a little bit over Durrani and Magnussen. But it's still less than 3 seconds, and those top three cars are really closely matched at this stage. Harry Tincknell, he's fully 22 seconds behind in that fourth position, and certainly is not making any ground just recently on those two.
Thank you, Jeremy. Kamali BMW in the lead of GT Daytona by 5 seconds. Pat Long trying to chase Bill Auberland down. How about this for a top four in terms of drivers, Jeremy? Bill Auberland, Pat Long, Lawrence Vanthoor and Brian Sellers. Add Ross Gunn and Jack Hawksworth. How about that for a top 6 in drivers in GTD? This is meant to be the entry level for IMSA Racing, and with GTD Pro coming next year, look at those 6. They've got to be candidates, haven't they?
Yeah, great stuff. And I completely agree. It's going to be... I'm really looking forward to GTD Pro next season. I mean, GTD with Pro-Am has been tremendous. And I think with 2 pro drivers in the cars, it's going to be even more exciting, quite frankly. And I can't wait for that. But, Bill Auberland is doing a super job at the moment. The gap from first to second, a few laps ago it was out to 7 seconds. It's a little bit less than 6 now, back to Patrick Long. But equally spaced back in third position, the FAF Porsche. So BMW, Porsche, Lamborghini of Brian Sellers, and then Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin. All of them covered by around about 20 seconds at this stage, and then a similar margin gap back to the next car, which is Jack Hawksworth in the number 14 Lexus.
Hour and a half to go. New fastest lap of GTD. Brian Sellers, who has taken over the number 1 Paul Miller Racing, has just gone quickest at 1:25.658, Jeremy. And that again is impressive. It's taken a long time to beat the time set early on in what was a car full of fuel by Till Beckelsheim. He's struggling a little bit now with that damage to the right front. Don't think the aero is liking that, and I bet the front Michelins aren't either. There's the new time to aim for in GT Daytona, 1:25.658 for that Lamborghini.
Yeah, really interesting, isn't it? And the lap record in GTD is the race lap record is a 25.0 by Alvaro Parent back in 2018. Fastest lap last year in GTD was actually Lawson Aschenbach in the Mercedes at 1:25.5. So still not down to those times yet. The GTD cars, so they are running the harder Michelin tire this year, aren't they, compared to what they ran 1 year ago? Is that right, Shane?
Yep, correct. They were on the S8 last year and the S9 now.
Well, they're going to need that for the weather at the moment, because we've got a track temperature of 47 degrees. That's heading up to 120 on the Fahrenheit scale. Extraordinary stuff for the Michelin tyres to have to deal with, and that is pretty extreme. 170 degrees Fahrenheit on the track, 81 in the air, as Pipo Derani comes into the pit lane. Shea Adam from second position. Magnussen goes through to take that spot, and the red and white number 31 Whelen is heading for service.
We're just about 10 minutes from halfway. Are they going to put in Felipe Nasser at this point? I do believe they are, as it is time to share Pipo Derani getting out and handing over to his countryman, Felipe Nasser, who's had a good run at this track over the last couple of years. He's been third 2019 and 2020, whereas Pipo was the winner back in 2018. So a very strong driver combination as far as track record here is concerned. Fuel is done, drinks bottle change is done. Wow, that was a great stop from Whelen Engineering. And in also the Mazda, that is a driver change. Harry Tingle out. Ollie Jarvis in 4 new Michelin tires. Those do look a bit shiny. And let's see, are they doing a windshield tear off? No, just a nice scrub of the microfiber and getting it a little bit damp too, trying to make sure that Ollie will be able to see the track in front of him. Kind of an amazing statistic as Ollie puts the car into gear and rumbles back into life. Windshield isn't actually terribly clean, kind of a bad glare from the camera angle. Neither of the Mazda drivers who have driven at this track every time with Mazda has stood on the podium. The best finish for Harry was 4th. He did that last year and in 2018. 5th last year for Ollie Jarvis. Just a replay of the stop on the Whelen Engineering car. Looked like they had some trouble with the left rear, didn't it, John?
Yes, just a little bit. And that car back out. That was a 36-minute stint for Pipo, a little bit less than that for Harry, about 35 minutes, lap or two difference on that. In comes the car that was leading, Philippe Albuquerque, and that's going to be only a 30-minute stint as well. Shea Adam, a quick stop there.
Yeah, and that was fuel and tires for the number 10, as well as a driver change. So sorry to the pit stand. Philippe is out of the car, and now it is Ricky Taylor's turn to go and race. As Philippe said, it's up to he and Ollie Pla to determine which Acura gets to be in the front. But for the first time all race, it's not an Acura leading. Kevin Magnussen has inherited the lead for Cadillac Chip Ganassi Racing, which means that when he comes in and does his pit service, Renger van de Zande is going to be in very good standing.
I find this interesting, Jeremy. I mean, two more 45-minute stints get those cars to the checkered flag, but it has to be 2 more 44-minute stints, and we've seen how people have struggled at the end of the tyre life there, and yet they've pitted what I would think was a wee bit early at 33-34 minutes.
Yeah, indeed so, the strategies are really, really interesting at this stage, and I think we're, as you say, we've got what, an hour and 28 remaining, so that's what, the 88 minutes. That's a very long 2 stints, and it's going to be very marginal towards the end of the race. And in some ways I like, but they get, track position is important, and I think the number 01 car is making a good call here by staying out the reins. So running a pretty good pace, or have been running a pretty good pace up until now. It's certainly fascinating to see how it's changing. I think we saw with the number 5 car how much of a struggle that was towards the end of its last stint, and Loic Duval is actually behind now, number 52 PR1 Matheson Motorsports LMP2 car.
Yeah, and this now puts that long stint of the number 60 Acura into some kind of perspective, because Ollie Pla's only been in that car for some 15 minutes. If he can get another 25 minutes out of that car, which there's no reason to think he can't, his teammate Dane Cameron got a lot more than that, although that was assisted by the yellow flags, of course, but that is going to give him 2 much shorter stints at the end of the race, and I think, all right, they may not have saved a full pit stop, Jeremy, but they're going to have tyres that are in way better condition come the end of the race.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It really is rather interesting at this stage, and it's hard to know how it might pan out at this juncture. It really is. Again, a full course caution is always going to mess things up completely. But taking that out of the equation, even if you do take that out of the equation, it's not easy to figure it out right now.
Yeah, planning for a full course caution, that's where you earn your money. It is a pit stop full service for the 01 Cadillac Chip Ganassi racing machine, and it was the bright, shiny gold helmet as it is now. It used to be yellow for Renger van de Zande behind the wheel of this car for the first time in the race. Now, Renger has won this race twice before, 2014 in the PC category, 2017 when he made that pass in the corkscrew on Dane Cameron. Sorry, Dane, need to bring that up for you. But that means that he won 3 years apart, so does that mean that his next one is going to come 4 years apart? You know how I like those statistical progressions, John.
It's not a fact, it isn't a fact, it is just a progression. It's not even probability. An hour and 26 minutes to go, and we've now been under green flag conditions for spot on an hour. So we're now getting some really useful data. All the teams will have been as well. Through goes the number 60 Ollie Pla, and with Renger van der Zande having just emerged from the pit lane in the 01 Cadillac, it is the 60 that leads and has a 16.5 second lead. Check that, has a 9.5 second lead on the number 10 Konica Minolta Acura in second. So 2 Acuras again back at the front, as they were at the start of the race, but with the places reversed, and Pla on a very different strategy from Meyer Shank Racing than what is being played out behind him. In LMP2, Mikkel Jensen in 6th overall, and ahead of the number 5 Mustang Sampling JDC Miller car, Loic Duval. That car not on the pace today. Somehow they've just not got it right, or are they playing some canny game with what they're doing? They stopped just a matter of 10.5 minutes or 8 laps ago. So Loic Duval's going to go really long into this race if he can. That could make it interesting at the end for them in terms of tyre life. What did we say in our Porsche keys to the race? It might be the tyres that determine this race, not fuel strategy, but grip, and grip at the end of the race, with the track temperatures still up around 117 degrees Fahrenheit, 47 degrees Celsius at the moment. GT Le Mans, Antonio Garcia and Nick Tandy have been swapping fastest laps. Nick Tandy has it at the moment with a 1:21.8, and Bill Oberlin is now 4.5 seconds ahead in the Turner Motorsport BMW number 96, ahead of Pat Long. That's the white Liqui Moly 96 car, and the blue number 16 Wright Motorsports Porsche. He's about 2 seconds ahead now of the plaid Porsche with Lawrence Van Ter, who's 5 ahead of the Lamborghini, the red, white and black number 1 Paul Miller Racing car with Brian Sellers in. That's how it stands, and your Mazda in-race update with an hour and 24 minutes still to go. Jeremy Shaw.
Yeah, and I think the I don't see any way number 5 car can get back into contention, and I think the favourite right now very definitely remains the number 10 car. I think they've. If we look at the gap between the number 10 and the number 60 before this kind of latest round of stops, okay, the number 60 car was first in, if you like. Well, that was his first stop of the race compared to everybody else in second, but it led to number 10 by 16.8 seconds. The gap now is 10 seconds between those two, and the number 60 car isn't out of the picture at this stage, but I think number 10 car, if I'm going to lay any money down, it's going to be that car's looking in the best shape at the moment. But the 2 Cadillacs, they're still running strongly behind there. They're equidistant back, about 4 seconds behind those two. So during this round of pit stops, the number 10 car has extended its lead a little bit over the number 31, which in turn has extended a bit of lead over the 01. But as I say, still an hour and 22 minutes remaining, so just about almost halfway through this race.
Yeah. 2 Acuras then, those 60 and 10, Meyer Shank and Konica Minolta, and Ollie Pla picking up the pace. He did his best lap a couple of laps ago, a 16.632. He's backed that up with a 16.9, and that is certainly picking up the pace. So let's see if he can keep that pace up. Where is he on the circuit at the moment? Just coming down to turn 10 with traffic ahead of him. See if he can clear that and keep up the pace. The number 10 Konica Minolta car is a couple of corners behind. That translates to about 8.5, 9 seconds, depending on the traffic. Crossing the line now, the number 60 Meyershank Racing Acura, down towards the heavy braking area at turn 2. He's cleared a couple of GT Daytona cars there, and now has a wee gap before he starts to run into, I think Bill Oberlin actually is the next car that he needs to pass, the Turner Motorsport GTD leader, as they head up towards turn 5. Yep, it is. It's the white, red and blue Litma Molly car, and I think Pla should get past him either on the run up to turn 6 or out of turn 6 and on the run up to the corkscrew. NASA 16.8 last time around, so Pla with a bit of traffic. It's down to a 17.2. I'm afraid that is going to be the name of the game, Jeremy. They trying to find a clear lap here is going to be gold dust in this last half of the race, which is exactly where we are now. An hour and 20 minutes gone, the same to go, and Patrick Long and Lawrence Vantour now fighting together for second and third in the two Porsches, the 16 blue right car and the plaid number 9. Those two know each other very well indeed and have been Porsche aficionados and drivers, Jeremy, for a very long time indeed. They know how to pedal those cars.
Yeah, they do, and they are very good at doing exactly that. The race leader there, Ollie Pla, as you say, John, his turn. It's a good laps right now, but the gap back to second place has come down a little bit over the last 2 or 3 laps as he worked his way past the GTLM leaders to put them now 3 laps behind the overall leaders, and Ollie Pla, running a good consistent laps at 17.2 last time, 17.7 last time around. He turned his best up at 16.6 just a couple of laps ago. But it's going to be interesting to see how long this stint is for that car. They need 2 more stops, as everybody else needs. At least 1 more stop. It's going to be marginal for them to get to the end on just 1 more stop. It's super interesting.
Yeah, it's not an easy 1 stop. Well, no, it is an easy 1 stop for the 60 car. It's not an easy 1 stop for the other cars, as Jeremy is pointing out there. They need to do 2 stints of over 40 minutes, whereas if Ollie Pla, in fact, can only run, even if he only runs another 10 minutes or so, what are we going to get? No, he's going to have to go longer than that, isn't he? Otherwise yeah, so he's got a couple of stops to go. Everybody else might have 1 full stop and a splash, is what I was looking at there. So not sure, as Jeremy said, that is going to play out in their favour. He's been in the car 19 laps. They did 38 laps on the first stint, but that was aided by some fairly drastic fuel saving, which I don't think Ollie is doing at the moment. He's been given the giddy up, and he's pushing on very hard indeed. The Porsche battle goes to turn number 6. Pat Long in the mainly blue, white and black of right Porsche. Lawrence Vantour sitting in behind him in the plaid Porsche up to the corkscrew. Nothing between them. Dropping down from the highest point of the racetrack. It's a battle for second position as they head under the WeatherTech walkover bridge and down towards turn 10 now. Super part of the track, turn into turn 10. There's a bit of banking there which holds the car down if you get your turning point right. Vantour just closing up under braking. It's the concertina effect right out over the green on the exit of the turn 11 and across the line, and the gap between them has gone down to 0.3 of a second. Similar cars, drivers that are both very experienced but taking different lines into the Mario Andretti hairpin. Very noticeable there that Vantour went deeper and then diamond the corner back to get on the power a wee bit earlier, Jeremy.
It's very interesting, isn't it, to see those different driving styles down there. And over the course of the last 10 laps, the number 9 car of Laurens Vanthoor, he was almost 5 seconds behind Patrick Long. As we can see what the gap was there, just a couple of car lengths. So he's whittled down, 4.5 seconds worth of that gap over the course of the last 10 laps. So maybe, a few tenths of a second a lap is what he's made up. Meanwhile, Bill Auberlen, he still leads by 3.5 seconds. But go back those 10 laps, the gap from first to second was 6 seconds. So the fastest car in terms of its progression towards the leader at this stage will be Laurens Vanthoor. But then again, Brian Sellers, he's turning a good pace as well. He's fallen back a little bit compared to Laurens Vanthoor, even though he has set the fastest lap of the race. But he, in that number 1 Paul Miller Racing Lamborghini, has maintained a pretty steady gap. But actually, he's extended his gap to the number 23 Aston Martin of Ross Gunn.
Great looking top of the field at GTD, and I alluded earlier on to the fact that next year that class changes to 2 sub-classes as we lose GT Le Mans. So the last time you'll see the Corvette in its current form here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Corvette having to make the decision whether they build a proper GT3 car or allow that car to be performance balanced back to the GTDs. Say again, Jeremy, sorry?
So that for Felipe Nasser, they lost 3 seconds on that last lap.
Wow, that's a spin, isn't it? Or half a spin.
Well,
it's
yeah,
not just traffic, surely.
Well, if it was a big knot of traffic, it could. Well, I suppose it could be, yeah. It certainly cost him a fair bit of ground, and the gap back to Reger van der Zande is now just a couple of seconds. 2 Corvettes going at it.
Side by side for the lead of the GT Le Mans race. I said Garcia and Tandy had been trading fastest laps. They were very nearly trading paintwork there, coming through the final corner. Now down to turn number 2, the Andretti hairpin, going inside the white Speed Racer livery of the 44 Magnus NSX. Tandy in the yellow car holds the upper hand at the moment as he turns through the right-hander at the 3rd corner on the track. Till Bechtolsheimer just ahead of them. Tandy in the grey car, sitting in 2nd position. Garcia in the yellow. Thank you, Shea. Till Bechtolsheimer just ahead of them as they go to turn 5 and dive up the inside. Meantime, the number 31 of Felipe Nasser, having dropped a bit of time, that car looks undamaged and it doesn't look dusty, which if you've been off the track here is normally, Jeremy, a bit of a giveaway. CSI Monterey Beer and Laguna Seca. Now that car, I would opine that car, if it's been off the track, it's been barely off the track. So maybe it was just a knot of traffic that he's had to come through. There was a few GT cars, including the GT Le Mans leaders, and he's not long since gone by. So maybe that was just it.
Yeah, well, I mean, a few laps after his last round of pit stops, it was about 4 seconds or so behind the number 10 car. It stayed around about 5 seconds or so. All of a sudden, it's out to over 10. It's just come down a little bit on this last lap, but as Nasser gets a better lap in, actually goes green in his middle sector on this lap, so he had a clear lap this time around. Reger van der Zande is a similar margin back and remains a similar margin back in the 0-1 car. But the number 55 is definitely making some ground towards those 2 Cadillacs. The Mazda, now the gap back to the Mazda from the 0-1 of Reger van der Zande is 14.5 seconds. We go back 10 laps, it was over 23 seconds. So that's come down by quite a long way, by 8 or 9 seconds over the last, of course, 10 laps. So a better part of a second a lap.
First time in a long time the track temperature has come down. Air temperature staying round about the same at 75 Fahrenheit, that's 24 Celsius, down to a still toasty 115 Fahrenheit or 46 Celsius, so dropped a degree or a couple of degrees depending on which scale you work on. The humidity, which at various times this morning in the mornings when it's been foggy, has been showing in the high 90s, so basically having to cut your way through the cloud as you came in, down to a fairly manageable 57 with an hour and 12 minutes to go. You're listening to IMSA Radio. It's Hindhaugh and Shaw in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre with Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us, anything to discuss at the end of the race, well, we've got Michelin post-race tech. Tag your posts for that to at IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT. Michelin PRT. After the race, Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, the number 31 car there of Felipe Nasser, he's just done a very good lap of 16.462, which is only a few hundredths away from that car's fastest lap of the race. It was set way back on lap 24 by Pipo Derani. So, you know, whatever it was, with that must have been traffic, just a knot of cars he had to work his way past. It was cost him about more than 4 seconds on that one particular lap. He's got back into his groove now and is you're back up to pace again on a very, very good pace. Good the fact that he made his stop on lap 47, so 15 laps into this stint, he's just turned a very, very good lap time.
It's not an easy track to get the strategy right on here. So many little jigsaw puzzle pieces to put into place. And you don't have in these races, to stretch the analogy probably farther than it needs to go, but it's like trying to do the jigsaw puzzle without having the picture on the top of the box here, because you don't really know how it's going to play out. Bad enough if you're in the top class, but for LMP2 down over GT Le Mans, GT Daytona, of course you don't know how many laps it's going to be, because you don't know where the pace of the leaders is, how many laps they're going to complete, and therefore how many laps you're going to complete. So you're looking at the clock, back timing everything from the finish. You can have your predictions, which tells me that there are 50 laps to go, but that's based on the information that's been fed in, which includes, of course, the fact that we had 11 minutes of yellow flag running earlier on in the race. So that might just stretch out a little bit. 50 laps. Well, we're getting close to the time now where the GTDs maybe. What are GTDs doing in their first stints, Jeremy? As we've got pit stops, we'll get back to that thought in a moment. Shea Adam, we've got the leader in LMP2 in the pit lane.
It's fuel and tires for Nickel Jensen. This is slightly early, but not completely unexpected. We should be getting Tristan Nunez and Ryan Dial into the pit lane here within the next few laps as well. And I'm also expecting the WeatherTech Racing crew to come in here soon. I've seen them put new tires up on the wall from Matt Campbell, as well as Till Bechtelsheimer in the 66 Gradient Racing Acura. He's got to hand it over to Mark Miller so that Mark can get minimum drive time. There's only an hour and 8 minutes to go, and Mark still needs his 45 minutes as well.
Right, and what are they doing on a tank of fuel, as I'm kind of working out how far people can go. 33 laps, 36 laps for the Lamborghini, so that was just over an hour again. That was assisted by the yellow flag early on, so somewhere just under an hour then, Jeremy, seems about right round here in these conditions for the GT Daytona. So we're 8 minutes away from being able to do their last stop.
Indeed, I think that sounds pretty sensible to me. Just looking at the lap times of Reger van der Zande, who's just set a new fastest lap of the race a couple of laps ago, 1:16.024 for the Dutchman. He's closing in that gap that was over 4 seconds, a pretty stationary around 4 seconds to Felipe Nasser, is down now to less than a second and a half, and the gap back to the Mazda, which came down from 23 to as little as 14.8 seconds, is now over 20 again. So really interesting to see the number 01 car. That was the last of the leaders to make a pit stop on lap 51, so we've got 14 laps since then, but clearly that car is going very, very quickly at the moment.
I'm not sure the number 55 Mazda with Ollie Jarvis in it at the moment, not sure that all is well with that car. I was watching where it was on the track last time around. It had a relatively clear lap and still only did a 17.3, and even in beforehand, they were struggling with that. We'll get back to that in a moment, as we've got the Liqui Moly Turner BMW into the pit lane, leader in GT Daytonaship.
This feels a bit early to me. He was within the window for making the stop, but still an hour and 6 minutes to go. That means he's going to need to come back down the pit lane for a splash of fuel, even though we know how good Bill Otterlund is on fuel conservation, as he's proven it last few races. But fuel and 4 new Michelin tires, no matter how good you are on fuel, not going to be able to save those tires. But Lawrence Vanthoor was chasing him down. So this was Don Salama trying to get Bill Otterlund into a bit of free air. And now he cycles back out behind Jack Hawksworth in the 6th position on the racetrack. But he's behind Mark Miller, leaving the pit lane in the Gradient Racing Acura. So he does have a bit of GTD company on track, even though Mark is a lap down.
Yeah, damage to the right front of that car sustained early on. And you mentioned Lawrence Vanthoor chasing him down. That's because Lawrence got past Pat Long just before he's come into the pit lane. He's put about 4 seconds into the Wright Motorsports car, and they're both now in the pit lane, Jeremy.
Indeed they are. So they're kind of matching that strategy, which is certainly very, very interesting, isn't it? One has to assume they think they can do 66 minutes and get to the end from here, because I'm sure they wouldn't be stopping otherwise. I think that making sure they don't get undercut. Clearly, Lawrence Vanthoor has been the quickest car on the track in recent laps, because he's made that pass on Patrick Long and pulled away a few seconds as well. Patrick Long, meanwhile, he'd been closed upon by Brian Sellers, who has not yet made his pit stop, so now will lead the class for a few laps. He's got about a dozen seconds in hand over Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, Brian Sellers was the last of those leading GTT cars to stop. He's only been out there for 36 minutes. Ross Gunn's been out there for 48 minutes. Vanthoor, before he came into the pits, was 40 minutes, should I say. 42 minutes for Pat Long, and Bill Oberlin 46 minutes. So I mean, on the strength of that, Jeremy, at the moment, Brian Sellers, who comes into the pits now, well, okay, I was going to say if he could do a couple or 3 more laps, he might be able to get to the end. I don't think any of those cars can get to the end, Jeremy. I really don't.
I think they must be able to do yeah. The number 1 car, I mean, that was the last car, as you say, to pit last time around, but by several laps. Now it's just come in 1 lap later than the 2 Porsches. But I'd be surprised if the strategists weren't aware of how far these cars could go, and I would not expect them to come onto pit lane again, assuming they got their sums right, which I think is a pretty good assumption.
Yeah, well, as I say, 40 to 46. Say again, Jeremy, sorry?
As you say, John, the numbers certainly do not lie.
Well, 40 to 46 minutes in that last green green.
Yeah, so there's
flag.
No need then to come in now, other than cover the other contenders in case there was a full course caution. Number 96 car's already been in and done its last stop, so if there's a full course caution, they would fall to behind whoever had not made the pit stop so far.
It's Jeremy Shaw. He's in the Hackney Global Broadcast Centre with me, John Hindle, Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter. We're cycling through the GT Daytona stops, and the number 88 Porsche is in the pit lane.
Yes, and they had intended to be the first of the cars onto the pit lane to do their final stop, but the best of intentions didn't exactly pan out for them, so they're one of the last cars to do their final stop, and it is fuel and tires for Catherine Legg. Yes, no issue getting the car back into gear and getting it moving again. I was a bit nervous there for Cat. We still wait for Jack Hawksworth to come into the pit lane, but I believe that the good work from the Paul Miller boys and girls got Brian Sellers back out ahead of the 9 Pfaff Motorsport Porsche, which is also ahead of the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. Is it not? It looks like it is on the tracker.
The 9 car is just coming out of the final corner now, the Pfaff Motorsport car, and the number 1 car is behind it. Jack Hawksworth is just coming into the pit lane. He was in front of both of them. So down the pitch straight at the moment, I'm pretty certain that the number 9 will go through and be scored at the head of GTD. Indeed, that's so by 2 seconds, Shay. So Brian Sellers didn't quite get to the back of Lawrence Van Tor with that. Bill Oberlin another 2.2 seconds further back, and Pat Long another 1.4 after that. So Pat Long, Jeremy Shaw and the Wright Motorsports team, they're the real losers there. They were second position and battling with Lawrence Van Tor for it before the pit stops. Van Tor now leads, Pat Long down in 4th position and has dropped a bit of time. There's also been a little incident, and this might have bearing on it, between the 96 Turner BMW and the number 16 of Pat Long. So maybe there's a story there that we'll try and chase down. That is under review at the moment.
Yeah, and that's a significant one, because it's number 96 car that lost out the most. I mean, that came in before this round of pit stops, still with a pretty handy lead of about 4 seconds over the 2 Porsches, and now it's back in 3rd position behind one of the Porsches, and also behind the Lamborghini for Paul Miller Racing as well. So that's the car that's come off worst here, and it was looking, you know, the best before that round of pit stops.
Down to 60 minutes to go. And Shea Adam is doing a troll of the pit lane to see who's going to tell her the truth about fuel.
Got answers. Thankfully, people are quick at responding, and my thumbs tapping away has actually panned out this time. Wright Motorsport, good on fuel. Bill Oberlin and Turner, they are just good on fuel. Paul Miller Racing, maybe need a splash, but they think they are good to the end of this one. And Pfaff, they are good to go.
Stop for Matt Campbell for WeatherTech Racing. That's a GT Le Mans car, so that will be another stop for that car, I think, before the end of the race. Fuel probe comes out, and the Antipodean sensation, Matt Campbell, gets the 79 car singing again as it comes off the pit lane speed limiter. Still looking at the front of the field. See if we can find out what happened with Wright Motorsports and the Liqui Moly Porsche, the Liqui Moly BMW. Well, it was at the final corner, and there was a little love tap as Oberlin came up the inside. Yeah, a bit of bump and run there, Jeremy, wasn't it, really?
Came from a long, long way behind. And what was also remarkable about that shot to me, on the overhead view from the helicopter or plane or whatever it is, or drone, it was the BMW looked so much bigger than the Porsche.
Porsche's a small car now. We're talking about what it looked like when it was sitting in behind the Corvette earlier in the weekend. I think these iterations, the 991.2, the wide body car that is, and the new 992, I think they're massive compared to an old 993 when I'm out driving that. They look like SUVs when they drive past me, but they look pretty small. Frontal area of that BMW, the M6, very, very big indeed. That car to be replaced, of course, the GT3 car. There's a new M4 GT3. BMW have been showing that car and getting it out to get some testing under the wheels. We had the new Audi Evo 2 of their GT3 car out at Barcelona last weekend in the Creventic 24-hour series. That car with very advanced rear aerodynamics and a reverse swan neck mounting for the rear aerofoil. And by that I mean the swan neck is from the back of the car going forward rather than from the front of the car going backwards, which is what we normally see, and that's moved the aerofoil much closer to the rear window. Some very clever thinking going on there. Step up to the plate, Ross Gunn, Harter Racing Team, Aston Martin Vantage, new fastest lap in GT Daytona, Jeremy, 1:25.5.
Yeah, and he needs it because he's a full 20 seconds behind the number 16 car in 4th position, and with the Bill Oberlin car in 3rd place, the Aston Martin needs to catch up, if not to lose more ground in the points table. They lost points yesterday as a result of that qualifying mishap, which was really unfortunate for that team, and it could end up being very costly. I don't like this new points scoring for qualifying, and I'm sure the Aston team in particular will back me up now because of that miscue yesterday. So that was unfortunate. I'm just looking at the front of the field, John. Olivier Pla, another remarkable stint here. The first stint of the race was 38 laps by Dave Cameron, and Ollie now, we're on lap 73, and we're still waiting for that second pit stop for number 60 car, and he's still turning really good laps. 17, mid-17s. That's really good for the end of the stint on this number 60 car. So yeah, we've still got 64 minutes remaining, so I'm sure he's going to be in the next lap or two, which is still going to need him, need another spot. He stays out this time one more time. It's incredible. So this is what, 38 and 36 now, even without that caution. Remarkable.
Yeah, this is a 46-minute stint because it's all been green. The previous one, although it was only a couple of laps longer, was much longer because of the safety car laps. But with 55.5 minutes to go, how much further can he go into this race? This is really interesting for him, because I didn't think he could go with just one more stop, and certainly the other cars are going to have to stop again. So if he's somewhere close, it's all going to come down to where he is when the checkered flag comes out, potentially. Very interesting. Shea Adam, bit of a slow pit stop at the moment. Well, certainly not a hurried one for the number 12 Lexus in pit lane.
Zach Veach, who brought the car in from the 7th position, getting 4 new Michelin tires. They had to take a full load of fuel, though, so the good news is they're not losing anything. There we go. Comes car actually has the fuel probe detached. That's the word I'm looking for. And Zach manages to get it rolling. 35 seconds worth of stationary time in that stop, a bit longer than it needed to be. And finally, Olivier Pla making a visit down the pit lane. This beautiful Meyer Shank Racing Acura. We haven't quite seen enough of it on the pit lane so far today for my taste, but out on the track, it has been a good run. Now, Olivier is, yes, staying aboard. There is no green helmet up on the wall. Fuel and 4 Michelin tires. Now, this is going to be the desperation, try to get every last drop of fuel into this car. They ran on an alternative fuel strategy at Road America. It did not pay out there. They're running on an alternative fuel strategy here. We wait and see if it does work out for them. The only car in the DPI category without a win so far this year. Hard to believe. We've had so much variety. Waiting. 30. As soon as that number hit 30, the car rolled away, meaning that it took almost the maximum amount of allotted fuel in that stop. Olivier was on fumes.
Full of VP Racing fuel. Got to think that they need some yellow flag assistance to get to the end without coming into pit lane again. 53 minutes to go then. Ricky Taylor cycles back to the front of the field in the Konica Minolta Acura number 10. He is, what is he, 27 laps in, 35 minutes into a stint, so he's maybe got another 10 minutes before he has to come. That'll leave him 43 minutes to go. It's doable. It is doable, but not at absolute full speed. Felipe Nasr in second. He's been out there 36, 37 minutes as well, so ditto the above. Van der Zande a little bit better off. He's only just over half an hour, and he therefore has I'd say he doesn't have as much of an issue to do it in one more stop. Ollie Jarvis, 36 minutes in the 55 Mazda, and Loic Duval, he's already been out 42 minutes, so he's normally the one to come in first, so he should be in shortly for what will be, is he gonna be able to get in and do one more stuff to get to the end as far as Duval and Mustang sampling's concerned? Jeremy Shaw, you're looking at the numbers.
Yeah, number 5 car's out of the picture. They are there's no way they can get themselves up here. The number 60 car, if that is going to need a full course caution, I believe, for this strategy to work out, exactly as was the case at Road America one month ago. If there is a full course caution, then they've got a chance of this. But if not, they're going to be back in the 5th position, which is, having started second, isn't what they were looking for. What's interesting to me, though, that was a really great stint by Ollie Pla. He managed 38 laps, all green, and turning some really good laps towards the end of it. So that tells me that tyre wear is getting better as more Michelin rubber is laid down onto this racetrack. So it's not as critical as it was in the early stages, perhaps. But against that, the gap from the number 10 to number 31, the second of the first of the Acuras, because it started on pole position, that's ballooned out from 7 seconds. It's doubled now. It's 14 seconds back to Felipe Nasser, and Renger van der Zande has been he caught up a deficit for a while, and now now he's not making any ground. But the really interesting one here is that Oliver Jarvis is now just 7 seconds behind the second of the Cadillacs, the Chip Ganassi Cadillac, Renger van der Zande. That gap we talked about a little while ago, went 23 seconds down to 14. It then went out again to 20, and now it's down to 7. So really, really interesting to see how it's kind of ebbing and flowing as this race has progressed.
Jarvis is due in shortly. He's been out nearly 40 minutes.
They're all due in fairly shortly,
Well, I'll see. I've been wrong here before. This is a track where, as we said in our Porsche Keys to Race, you can make a bit of fuel here. There are places where you can lift and coast and make big fuel savings here without doing too much damage to your lap times. Mikkel Jensen, he's not hanging about. He's not saving fuel. He's got nearly 30 seconds of a lead in the 52 PR1 Matheson Motorsports Oregon in P2, and he's just put in a new fastest lap for the LMP2s, a 1:16.656, Jeremy.
Sorry, who was that?
Jensen,
Mikkel
Jensen.
Yeah, exactly right. No, he's running away pretty nicely in the lead of that class. He's also got one more pit stop to come before the end of this race. I think all of the LMP2 cars have, and he's got a pretty handy margin. It was over 30 seconds, a little bit less than 30 seconds now, back to Gabriel Aubry in number 8 car in second place. And the number 8 car, that was the first car to make a pit stop on the last sequence, and it's actually got ahead of the 18 during that sequence. So Randiel was 3 seconds behind Gabriel Aubry. I didn't see when that pass took place. It was likely during the pit stops, the number 8 car coming in several laps before the number 18. I didn't see, to be perfectly honest, but they had been fairly close. But it's now number 8 ahead of the 18. So Aubry 4, Tower Motorsport in second place, Era Motorsport winner last time at Randiel back in the 3rd position, and a pit stop now with 48 minutes remaining for the number 5 car, which, as in the last sequence, was the first car to come onto pit lane amongst the DPIs.
They're going to have to save a bit of fuel, I think, to get it home from there. Couple of laps maybe. Just in from Turner Motorsport, we're talking about how small the Porsche looked. They've obviously, listening in at IMSA Radio, said we're just big boned is what they're talking about in there. Excellent tweetage for that at IMSA Radio, please, and use the hashtag MichelinPRT if you want to bring something up for the post-race tech show. Good to know that there's still plenty of people tuned in late on into Monday morning in Central Europe, just after 11 p.m. On Saturday if you're in the UK. Thanks for joining us. Still a bit of racing to go here, still a bit of strategy to play out as well, with that gap at the front of the field, 14 seconds as in comes Felipe Nasser to the pit lane. 47, call it 48 minutes to go. It'll be a wee bit less than that when he comes out of the pit lane, but Shea Adam, the Whelen Cadillac, is in the pit lane.
And this should be fuel and tires, very straightforward for the Whelen Engineering crew, who have won the last 2 races in the DPI class on the bounce. No need to reinstall Pipo Derani because they split the time exactly half and half. So that should be Felipe Nasser staying aboard. Perhaps a new drinks bottle for Felipe. No, they have left the door closed. They left the windshield wiper straight up, though, after the windshield tear off. Thank you very much, handy dandy left front tire changer, for noticing that and putting it back down. Would have been awfully distracting for Felipe Nasser, a bit like when the tow hook comes up and it's your aiming point. Let's see how long that stop was. It looked pretty darn good. The pit triggers, and wow, that was a good stop for Felipe Nasser. That brings their total pit time up to 1 minute and 53 seconds for this race, and only 55 seconds from that stop. That's a good one. Also in from the lead of GT Le Mans, the number 4 Corvette, Nick Tandy, and they are definitely giving him a new drinks bottle. Driver's side doors open. They might have actually just handed him a water bottle with a straw in it, the good old-fashioned way. Doing the 4 new Michelin tires, waiting on the fuel. The air jack comes out, the door shuts. Hope you've had enough to drink there, Nick, as you get to go off and play a little bit more. The strategy is really coming down between these two cars, because Antonio and Nick have been going at it hammer and tongs for the lead of GTLM, and the 79 Porsche just hasn't really been able to fight its way back into contention.
It's the VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock report, and as that Corvette was leaving for Nick Tandy, he did what we've all done on whatever platform we drive. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca completely overshot the pit exits and actually rejoined the track in the middle of the Mario Andretti hairpin. Cold front Michelin tyres for Nick Tandy. Off the pit lane speed limit around about where the bridge is, and is pushing really hard, locks up the fronts, decides discretion is the better part of valour, cadence braking going on and off the middle pedal, and then pulls it back somewhere near to the pit lane exit. Not sure that's the quickest way to get out of the pit lane, Jeremy Shaw.
No, it isn't the quickest way to get out of the pit lane, and he's going to be fortunate if he doesn't pick up a penalty. I don't think he really impeded the other cars on the racetrack, but if he had done, that would have been a penalty. So he'll likely get away with it, but it'll certainly cost him some time, and it's been such a close battle between these two. We'll have to see how it works out. He's actually come out there. He is actually ahead, isn't he? So it has worked out for him, and we'll see if he can maintain that advantage. The 79 car of Matty Campbell is about 35 seconds back in the third place, so he's not been able to make up any ground at all in the later stages of this race, and that car was already in the pits a little while ago.
Pit stop for Ollie Jarvis. Now that, with 45 minutes done in that stint for Ollie and 44 minutes to go, is likely then, Shea Adam, to be their final pit stop.
Yeah, you would hope so. The mechanics certainly are hoping that when it rolls out of the pit lane, the next time they see it, they have a reason to spray some champagne on it. Long ask at this point, but still, team can hope. And they do fuel and tires for Ollie Jarvis as he rolls back out of the pit lane. And decent stop for them as well, 57 seconds stationary, so 2 seconds longer than the Whelen Engineering Cadillac. Just to put that into perspective, is into the pit lane comes the 10, the Konica Minolta Acura in
Very
from
close.
the lead. This is Ricky Taylor. I know, but I didn't say it, and I haven't messed up the track's name as of yet this weekend either. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. They are doing 4 tires for Ricky, leaving him aboard. It looks like a drinks bottle change as well. Yep, the pressurized red bottle that goes in on driver's right. Doing the staggered tire stop where they alternate which sides they put the tires on. Car drops off the air jacks, waiting on fuel. This is a very good, clean stop by Wayne Taylor's boys and girls, waiting for the fuel probe. There we go. Go, Ricky, go. And away he does. All right, first pit box means we should get our time here very quickly. 57.3 seconds on the pit lane. A bit longer even than we saw of the Mazda stop.
That was a 45-minute stint, 43 minutes to go. A little bit of headroom just in case you have to do an extra lap at 1 minute and 18, 1 minute and 19. That should be their last stop as well. So the calculations have been done now, and we should see 1 or 2 others coming into the pit lane. So who's the next one to come in? That should be the 0-1 of Renger van der Zande, the Cadillac, and he will have somewhere near 40 minutes to go when he comes out. And on cue, Shea Adam, he hits the lane.
Hello, Renger. Welcome to the pit lane. We will be your flight attendants for today. Fuel and tires is what is expected for Renger van der Zande's Cadillac, and fuel and tires is exactly what's on the plan. Good luck trying to take Renger out of this car, by the way, at this stage of the race. I don't think just about anyone could make that happen. Maybe his kids, if they came and begged him to take him for ice cream or something. But a very clean stop for Cadillac Chip Ganassi Racing. Fuel, tires, exactly what's expected, and working on the right front still. Again, a staggered stop. Ooh, even a windshield tear off for Renger. They're really spoiling him today as they're going to send him back out. Olivier Pla has inherited the lead once again. Michael Schenk gambling with a different fuel strategy. Let's see if it pays off for MSR. But as far as Cadillac Chip Ganassi is concerned, their job in the pits is done for today.
Yeah, already been out the better part of 12 minutes though, Ollie Pla. And that, I think, is fuel saved too far. He's got 9 seconds on the number 10 of Ricky Taylor. That's the other Acura. As the leader in LMP2 comes along, we'll leave Shea to keep a look at that at the moment. We've just had a new fastest lap of the race, Jeremy, and that's another new lap record, of course, and this time it goes to Mustang Sampling and Loic Duval.
Yeah, very, very quick lap time, 15.669. Wow, so the old mark was 16.0.
Yeah,
so that's a really good lap time by Loic Duval. Very impressive at this stage, but that car, I don't think has any hope of getting back into contention. It is going to, I think, probably move ahead. It has just moved ahead of the number 52 car, so it's ahead now of the P2 cars, but still a lap behind the leaders for Loic Duval.
He's got to do somewhere near 50 minutes in this last stint if he's not stopping again, and he hasn't got track position. Ollie Pla has got to do 53 minutes minimum in this last stint. Now, he has got track position, but he can't, surely he can't keep the pace up at 9 seconds ahead of Ricky Taylor and save enough fuel to do that. So I applaud the different ways of doing things. It may be when we speak to Mike Shank and the rest of the MSR guys that they say, well, we're not sure that we had the pace in race trim today, and we felt that this was the way we might get on the podium. But given that they'll need to come down, if they do need to come down pit lane again, it's around about 25 seconds transit time, plus how much fuel you come in. Well, at the moment they're only 24 seconds ahead of, 29 seconds ahead of the car that would inherit third place. So not sure the numbers stack up at the moment with just under 40 minutes to go. Here's your Mazda in-race update. Lawrence Vantour leads for Pfaff Motorsport in the Porsche. Number 16, the light blue car, is 1.3 seconds ahead of the Lamborghini Huracan. That's the red, white and black machine. Paul Miller Racing, the number 1, in second ahead of Turner Motorsports BMW. Bill Oberlin has been set to stun in the 96 Liquid Moly car, 2.3 seconds further back from second. Just under 3 seconds away from a podium position in fourth is Pat Long for Wright Motorsports in the light blue car. Sorry, Lawrence Vantour, the number 9, that's the plaid Porsche. Swap the Porsches around there for a moment. He is 21 seconds ahead of Ross Gunn for Heart of Racing's Aston Martin. And the first of the Vassar Sullivan Lexus RCF GT3s is in 6th position. That's the number 14 car with Jack Hawksworth on board. GT Le Mans, no team orders, 1.3 seconds behind them. Corvette Tandy from Corvette Garcia, 4 from 3. Matt Campbell just over half a minute behind in third position for the 79, the white WeatherTech Racing Porsche with the red and blue swooshes on it. Mikkel Jensen, comfortable, as comfortable as he was, but still comfortable in the PR1 Matheson Motorsport car. It was just over 30 seconds. It's now about 23. Back to Tristan Nunes for Win Autosport in the number 11 car, and another 9 seconds further back to Ryan DL, who's having a scrap with the number 8 Tower Motorsports Orica of Gabby Aubrey, who's only half a second behind. And at the front of the field, as Tristan Nunes pits from second position for their last pit stop in LMP2 for Win Autosport. At the front of the field, Ollie Pla leads by 9.8 seconds over Ricky Taylor. The 2 Acuras, first and second. The 60, that's the pink and black car, and the 10, the black and blue, shiny black and blue car. They are ahead by 10 seconds between those two, and a 14, call it 15 seconds further back. The first in Cadillacs is Felipe Nasser in the 31 red and white Whelen. That's how it stands with 37 minutes to go. That's your Mazda in race update on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Good to have your company. Jeremy Shaw, I've no clue. I really have no clue, because it's going to be about who's got the performance at the end and who saved a bit of fuel, I reckon.
No, unless there's a full course caution, the number 10 car has to be a clear favourite here, for my money. The question is, how far can Ollie Clark go? If there is a full caution, that he might be able to make it, in which case he might be good. He's only going to need a splash, probably a long stop. Once again, I think just like at Road America, it's going to be 4 or 5 laps to go. And what coulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda might not be. But still, it's been a valiant effort by that team. And the question is, are they going to be able to make a stop and still stay in the top? They're certainly not going to come out in second place, and probably not even in third.
No, I agree.
They're probably going to fall down to fifth, I think. So they desperately need a full course caution. The other contenders, yeah, it's not a slam dunk. Number 31 car can get to the end, I would say. They came in with, what, 47 minutes to go. That's quite a long time. 43 should be fine, I think, for the other 3 cars. The best place in terms of fuel is a 0-1, then the 10, then number 55, and then 2 laps worse off number 55 is number 31. However, track position, number 10 car, like I say, I think he's gold, and I think they've got the strategy just right, and they've got a very handy margin of 16 seconds now over number 31 car. Prior to this round of pit stops, it had gone out to around about that, having been as little as 5 or 6 seconds before that. The number 31 car ahead of number 01, that's the interesting one, because those 2 cars have been running together before their pit stops. The number 31 car came in 4 laps before the 01, was able to get out on fresh tyres and pull out 4 seconds over the 01 car. But now that gap has been halved already by the number 01 with Renger van der Zende trying to chase down Felipe Nasser. And then the other interesting one is the Mazda, which had closed down to, I think it was 7 seconds before the pit stops, compared to number 01, but now that gap, that deficit, is over 10 again. So it's amazing how it's ballooned and shrunk and then ballooned again, the gaps between the different cars.
Another 1 degree drop in temperature, Jeremy, and that will help tyre wear. We said in our Porsche keys to the race that just as important, possibly even more important here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca than fuel is the grip that you have for your tyres. It's such a interesting surface here, and with the conditions, it hasn't been too windy today, so that's really important that we're not getting so much of the sandy debris on the track. Taylor then in second position, just closing down a little bit, a 16.8 last time around. Ollie Clark 33, call it 34 minutes to go as we continue to count down, and it's been a good long green flag run now, coming up to 2 hours in 7 minutes time. Round about 25 laps to go, the computer says. That is what everybody will be working to. Shay, go ahead.
That's your fault now, John, if we get a caution.
I've said it twice now and it's not happened. I think the curse has been broken. I do think the curse has been broken. What a fabulous weekend at the Hyundai Monterey SportsCar Championship. IMSA, take a bow, all of you, for getting this set up, and the organisers here at the track, as we have had a cracking weekend of entertainment. In addition, IMSA competition department setting up events at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for Porsche Carrera Cup North America, presented by the Cayman Islands Tourist Board. Visit Cayman Island. And also we've had Ferrari Challenge at Road America. So Mikkel Jensen with a new fast lap in the LMP2s, and Tristan Nunez also. They're trading tenths of seconds here, Jeremy, in that LMP2 category.
Yeah, 16.371 for Mikkel Jensen. That is faster than Juan Pablo Montoya's DPI lap record prior to this weekend.
And that's a slowed down P2 car now, and a slightly heavier P2 car, yeah.
Indeed, and that PR1 Matheson Motorsports car, they've won this race the last couple of years. They're going for the hat-trick Fresno base, so local team. They've had another fabulous run today, and Mikkel Jensen just rubbing in there with that new fast lap. But there's a tremendous battle going on for second place in that class, with Ryan Diel now back ahead of Gabriel Aubry. So the Era Motorsport car 18 ahead of number 8, and also this super battle that is coming down the hill now through turn 9 for third place overall. Felipe Nasser has now been caught again by Renger van der Zande. That's happened before. It hasn't happened before. I think it's number 01 managed to find a way past number 31. So that's going to be really, really interesting to see whether Renger can pull off something special again here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Meanwhile, just to round it out, in GTLM, John, Nick Tandy, having got past Antonio Garcia with that interesting move down at the pit exit, he's extended that gap now to 2.5 seconds, which I think is probably the farthest those two cars have been apart the entire race, so 4 ahead of 3. And in GTD, similar margin from Lawrence Vanthoor to Brian Sellers, 2.9 seconds. So that has extended just a little bit over the last few laps. Similar margin back to Bill Arbel in third, but Bill has now been caught again by Patrick Long, and those 4 cars at GTD are still well clear. The Aston Martin of Ross Gunn, car number 23, in the 5th position, John.
Just going back to that battle between Renger van der Zande in the 01 Cadillac and Philippe Nasser in the 3rd place Whelen Engineering Cadillac, the 31 car, it might be important to point out that Renger has about a 4-lap advantage in terms of fuel, but probably more importantly, tyre life as well. It doesn't sound a lot, 4 laps, but it could be the difference, Jeremy, at the end of this race in half an hour, 32 minutes time, depending on how far into extra time we actually have to run.
Yeah, because I think in the last couple of stints we've seen the number 31 car struggling towards the end of the stint, and 47 minutes, that's a long way to go in a prototype car. So I think Felipe Nasser is going to be struggling on both counts, in actual fact, both tyres and fuel before the end of this race, unless there's a full course caution. If there is a full course caution, that's going to be the tyres more into play more than the fuel. But right now, I think he's got a double problem.
Meantime, Ollie Pla is being closed down by Ricky Taylor at the front of the field. We knew it was a big ask for that number 60 MSR car to stay ahead. Bit of traffic for Taylor, caught in not the worst position. He powers past across the start-finish line, going past the GTD 3rd place car, Turner Motorsport. The leaders in GTD starting to lap the back end of the GT Daytona field. Through turn 3 for Ollie Pla, a 120 last time around because of the traffic, a 118 from Taylor. It's down to just 2.4 seconds for the lead of the race. And you don't really want to give Ricky Taylor, Jeremy Shaw, any more encouragement. So certainly having him seeing the back end of the leading car, you can't really hide the hind quarters of the number 60 Acura because they are bright pink for the most part, so you can see it a long way in the distance.
No, that's true. The bad news there for Ricky Taylor, he's going to have to pass that same knot of GTD cars that Ollie Pla has just worked his way past. But irrespective of anything else, it's been a really good performance today, I think, from Ollie Pla. He's got really good fuel consumption out of his car, good pace as well. He's struggled, we talked about it the last several races, he's struggled at times during this season, but it's been a really fine performance now. I don't think he's going to be enough to win the race unless something really weird happens, but it's been an excellent performance by him and by Dane Cameron and that Meyer Shank Racing crew.
Yeah, another lap in the middle, 1:19s for Ollie Pla at the front of the field. Going to be a 1:18.5 for Taylor, so it's now down to just over a second. And in fact, they're on the same piece of racetrack now, the short chute between turns 3 and 4, one car between them for the moment. It's the number 11 Tristan Nunez driven Win Autosport. Now that car is very quick. That was lapping in 1:16s not so very long ago, and in fact last time around Nunez lapped in a 1:19.5. That's almost the same time as the two TPI cars, so it is not going to be that easy on pure pace to get past Tristan Nunez. They have to use the slightly better aerodynamics and braking abilities of the DPI cars, and maybe a little bit more power from the DPI car as well. Down through turn 10 to the final corner. Leader turns in right now. Actually, I think Nunez is catching the leader right now. He is. So it's not a question of whether Ollie Pla can pull away, it's whether he can keep Tristan Nunez behind. Now, Nunez is not in the fight for the podium at the moment, some 35 seconds behind Gabby Aubrey and Ryan Diello, who's still having a cracking scrap. But this is an LMP2 car fighting with DPIs, front-running DPIs. We've not seen this, Jeremy Shaw, for a very long time in IMSA racing. They used to be in the same class.
Yeah, and I wish they still were, but they are right now, because Tristan Nunez has really got the hammer down, as of course has Mikkel Jensen. That fastest lap there, pretty remarkable, 16.3 for Mikkel Jensen, 16.6.
Here's the pass for the lead, Jeremy.
Nunez.
And through, there's no fight at all from Pla. Actually stayed wide at turn 6. Now, did he realise which car was passing him there? There's a bluish prototype behind him, which had been the number 11, which has gone through as well for Tristan Nunez. That seemed as though Pla did not put up any kind of fight at all there, Jeremy.
No, he would have been informed on the radio. He would be astute enough to realise which car that was behind him. He knows that's not his fight right now. His fight is to... I can't see how he can possibly run a stint of 54 minutes on this tank of fuel. So I'm kind of surprised. I mean, he'd be praying for full course caution. I mean, his only hope there was probably to push one of those cars off the road and try and manufacture a full course caution, because I really don't see how he could get to the end from here without a caution. And therefore, I'm slightly surprised they haven't sort of gone flat out, made the stop when they can get to the end.
Yeah.
Which was probably at least 10 minutes or so ago, and then go for it from there.
Go flat out, yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. I can't quite understand that one.
I wonder if they haven't got a new set of tyres or something like that, and they're working on what they had in terms of tyre allocation. But yeah, you're right. It's an odd one. They have played the card of saying, right, we need a safety car to get to the end, certainly with the strategy. Remember, they were the team that went exceedingly long with their first driver when everybody else stopped. Dave Cameron, albeit with the help of some 5-6 laps of safety car, went over an hour for his 38 laps, and then full green stint of 38 laps for Ollie Pla, which was pretty much 50 minutes. He's being asked to do, effectively what we're seeing is he's being asked to do another couple of laps on top of that, Jeremy, to get it home, and that's going to be pushing his luck.
Way.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. I don't understand why they haven't pulled the trigger though and bring him in, get it on some fresh tyres and go for it. As you say, maybe, I mean, they had plenty of tyres, I'd have thought, coming into this weekend. How many sets they have? They had
9
sets of tyres. Should be plenty, I'd have thought. Just 2 practice sessions of qualifying and a 3-stop race. Should be plenty of tyres. Odd.
Yeah, very odd. Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter, keeping an eye on what's going on.
Just rubbing it in there, John. Ricky Taylor having made that pass for the overall lead, 16.7 on that last time around. Well into a stint here, cruising pretty much out in front, but still maintaining a very, very good pace.
Van der Zande still with, or right with Nasser, just 0.3 of a second between them. That's the battle for third and fourth. The red, white, wheel and engineering Cadillac, number 31, and the chalk grey 01 Cadillac. Those two have been at it for quite some time. And that is the best battle on the circuit at the moment. You've got Gabby Aubrey about the same distance away from Ryan DL. That's also for second in class in the LMP2 category. 22 minutes to go. Any word from MSR about what their plan was? Presumably just hoping for a safety car to get them to the end.
Well, remember when we talked with Philippe Albuquerque, he told us that the other Acura was not going to fight as hard. And remember, this is a track where Acura has made championship calls in the past. The difference between first and second, 350 points to 320 points, perhaps they knew that they weren't going to be able to get the win, and so they're making it easier for their sister manufactured car to run away, and maybe they can hold up the car in third.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Pat Long has just got by the Bill Oberlin Turner Motorsport and cleared off to a couple of seconds and more now. A couple of seconds just over there, Jeremy. That one, a couple of very experienced drivers battling it out for the third step on the GT Daytona podium. Now 5.5 seconds between Long and Sellers, but Brian Sellers actually putting in some decent lap times and matching the class leader in the other Porsche, the plaid Porsche, the number 9 car.
Yeah, you're right. You know, the gap, but it did extend a little bit. It was down to a bit over a second at one stage, but you know, there's certainly not, very little to choose between that Porsche and a Lamborghini. And now Patrick Long, having found a way past Bill Oberlin, which cannot been it certainly wasn't the work of a moment, he's able to extend that advantage to a couple of seconds, and still lost gun. He's around about another 20 seconds behind the fourth place car. So championship points, 96 ahead of 23. That's exactly what number 96 car needs, what the 23 car doesn't.
Yeah, Adam, remind me of the fuel situation in GT Daytona.
Bill Oberlin was the first one to come down the pit lane, and while they said they are just good to make it to the end, perhaps this is a little bit of fuel save from Bill just to cushion and make sure that they don't stop on the uphill running to the start-finish line. They come into this race as the championship leaders. It would certainly be a kick in the gut to be running in the third position and run out of fuel versus running in the fourth position and actually bringing it home.
Just one lap before the two Porsches, wasn't it? And then the Lamborghini and the Aston Martin, so the other cars that make up the top 5, they came in one lap later than the pair of Porsches.
Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhaugh in the Hagerty Global Broadcast Centre as we're under the final 20 minutes. Mission and post-race technicum. We'll discuss the whys and wherefore, but it's all driven by you. At IMSA Radio, hashtag MichelinPRT, please. If you'd like to be involved with that, seeing some good questions and observations coming in already. Another new lap record for LMP2, a 1:16.371. Oh, that's the one that was set a little while ago, sorry. Yeah, that is the one that was set a while ago, but as Jeremy pointed out, that is better than the DPI lap record as it stood at the start of this race lap record we're talking about there.
Yeah, and what we haven't talked about, in fact, in GTLM, there has been a new lap record there. It was established by Nick Tandy back, it was actually lap 46, I'd missed that, but a 1:21.827.
Yeah, he and Garcia were trading fastest laps for a couple of 3 laps, actually, Jeremy.
That's true, isn't it? They were, and the old record was Tommy Milner, which was actually set in the was a 22.498. That was in 19, so that was the old C7R. So now, of course, we're in the C8R here. In GTD, the fastest lap, as you talked about that a while ago, didn't you? It was Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin, a 125.523, which is yeah, that's still half a second away from Alvaro Parente's lap record on the slightly more soft tyre back in 2018, in fact, Alvaro Parente.
Ryan DL trying to pull the gap out of Gabby Aubrey, and in terms of that battle, it has been taken out because it was 0.3 of a second not very long ago, and he's tripled that and a wee bit more. It's now all for a second. So DL comfortable in the terms of that, and of course I say that Aubrey puts in a stonking lap and pulls it back down to 0.4 of a second. That one's going to run all the way to the end, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? That's been a fun one, and you know, hats off to Ryan DL to turn that around, because you know, he made that pass on Gabby Aubrey, sealed, I don't think, but he made that pass, and you know, all four of the DPIs turning, you know, very, very good lap times. Two of them are underneath, have lapped faster than the old DPI lap record, and the other two are fractionally outside it.
Yeah, it's been a great run by Mikkel Jensen, and in fairness by his teammate Ben Keating. Ben qualified that car and was phenomenally quick against the other gentleman drivers. That PR1 Matheson Motorsport car cleaning the setup is absolutely spot on for both of those drivers. It has been the class of the field. Ben Keating doing a cracking job. I think his gap in qualifying, Jeremy, was something, was it 2 seconds plus?
Yeah, it's nearly 2.5 seconds, I think. He was gone.
Yeah, he's really
he tried to make things interesting at the start by
falling back a couple of places. Yes,
falling back up a place, but he quickly made that up, and then he tried to make it interesting by coming into contact with a couple of GTD cars that kind of didn't seem to see him coming. But apart from that, it's been a really, really excellent run by that number 52 car again.
Yeah, I think Ben's really enjoying that LMP2 driving experience. He's got a decent amount of experience in GT cars, of course. Crossed the line first at Le Mans a few years ago in the GT, was then called GT AM, and had that taken away from him in post-race tech. But I've just pushed the soapbox slightly further away, because Ben seems to have forgotten about it now, so I need to let it go as well. I think under 15 minutes to go. Last 5 years, his results are 1st, 2nd, 4th and 5th as they crossed the line, I think, at Le Mans. Thoroughly enjoying, as I say, this prototype experience that he's getting with the LMP2 cars. Just 4 of them here this weekend, Jeremy, but good to see them here, and they do add a little bit of variety. And Mikkel Jensen's behind the wheel. I mean, he's lapping right on the pace of the front-running DPI cars.
Yeah, and just a couple of tenths quicker than Tristan Nunez too. So you know, they're all turning good lap times. It is great to see those P2 cars. They really are cool to see. Ricky Taylor, meanwhile, extending his lead, and Ollie Pla, you know, he's really cut his pace back. You know, he was overtaken when on lap 98. We're now on lap 107. So in that last 9 laps, he's lost 13 seconds to Ricky Taylor, and the gap back to Felipe Nasser is now down to 3.6 seconds. When he lost the lead, Pla, he was 17 seconds ahead of the 3rd place car. That gap is now down to 3 seconds, and there's still 13 minutes remaining. Okay.
No. We had a very similar conversation, Jeremy, did we not, at Road America? He's been out 49 minutes now, Pla. So he's got a very long way to go. We had exactly the same conversation. It hasn't played out for them. They rolled the dice, and it's come up snake eyes. Shea Adam with news from our VP Racing Fuels Pit and Paddock report.
Traffic is really coming into play for the GT leaders, both of them. The GT Le Mans leader, Nick Tandy, is currently trying to lap some cars that are battling for the head of the GTD category. And then in GTD, they are battling cars that are being lapped in their very same class. So just because we've got 12 minutes to go does not mean that this thing is over as of yet. And keep in mind that we have, let me see, you said 49 minutes since Paul had been out. My tracker is showing 41 minutes as of right now.
Let me check. I may have misread or picked the wrong thing. Yeah, I'm showing 38 minutes, 49. 38 laps, 49 minutes. Wait a minute. No. Sorry. My apologies. That was his previous stint. That was the long stint he did. Yeah.
Oh.
42 minutes. I hadn't scrolled far enough across. My fault. You're right. I'm wrong.
No, I was just nervous because I was thinking one of our timing screens is broken, and I was really hoping it wasn't mine.
No, it was Hindhoff's thought process that was broken there. Got a good battle now for second, third, and fourth, with Ollie Pla saving fuel, and Felipe Nasr less than a second behind him. Renger van der Zande another second behind there. They're heading up the hill now through turn 6. So a bit of a scrap with just over 11 minutes to go. Platt at the top of the hill kicks it out again, straight lines, the second part of the corkscrew, probably kicking it out of gear, I think, on the way down the hill, trying to save fuel. Comes through turn number 10, and here comes Felipe Nasr coming to the final corner now, and Nasr should be able to power by here. Platt moves slightly towards the middle of the road now, defends to the left as he goes through the left-hander, and Pla's been deposed. Nasr has gone through in the run into the Mario Andretti hairpin now. Nasr's gone through on Pla. Now let's see if Renger van der Zande, who's also right there, can do the same thing. It won't be long, surely. Yeah.
Right now. The interesting thing to me also is that Oliver Jarvis has made absolutely no ground whatsoever towards catching the Cadillacs on this stint, unlike the previous couple of stints when Harry Tittle did in the early part of the race, and then so did Ollie on the last stint as well. But this time the gap has even extended itself in recent laps, so it's not been a great day for the Mazda team, that's for sure, which would be disappointing for them. That car's generally gone fairly well here. It's always been a track on which the Acuras have particularly shone, and are doing again today, but it's not going to be a 1-2 like it probably should have been for the Acura pair. But the 0-1 car, Renger van der Zande, it was so frustrating just looking at the back of the number 31 car for such a long time. And of course, now he hasn't even got past yet the Acura either.
There he goes. Again,
coast there for Pla.
No defence put up by Ollie Pla, stayed down the inside. He knows that's not his battle, he's just trying to get to the end. Next it's going to be Ollie Jarvis, and Ollie's only 16, 17 seconds further back, and there's still 9 minutes to go. And the game is up if he has to pit, so their only hope now is to drive it until the fuel light comes on, and hope that is more than 9 minutes away, quite frankly.
Which I think is just really strange. I mean, if they'd come in 10, 15 laps ago, put on some fresh tires and gone for it, qualifying effectively, he would have had a shot, I think, of possibly third place.
Definitely.
At least. Well, not at least, at best. But even then, I think it's going to be unlikely. You know, they laid out their stall early on. But right now, as you say, all he's doing is struggling around, hoping to try and get to the end.
He did put that car's fastest lap in the early part of this last stint. He did that 16.632, and I thought that was them upping the pace to do what you'd mentioned earlier on. Right, this is what we're going to do: send Ollie Pla out, slap him around a bit with a raw steak, to say bad things about his family, and set him off on a 10-lap qualifying run. Then get him back into the pits, put a new set of tyres on, and say, right, go to the end from here. That there was that option, maybe a little more than 10, but certainly 10 or 12 or 15 laps, and then bring him in and put him on a slightly offset strategy to everybody around him, so he had better tyres at this part of the race. But they didn't, and they're going to be, I think they're going to drop to 5th. I think Jarvis will catch him. If I'm honest, he's lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker than him, and even with 7 minutes lap, maybe not quite enough. Yeah. But that's assuming that Pla can stay out for the next. What are we saying? Going to be 6 laps to go, 5 or 6 laps to go.
We're only 7 minutes remaining up, so that's going to be.
Where's the leader?
4, possibly 5 laps, depending where the leader is.
Leader's just gone down through turn 2.
Yeah, and the last bit up for Ollie Pla was like 76. He did 38 on his last stint, so it'll be 114. 3 laps, yeah, crikey.
So they're tight as well. Yeah, Ollie Pla, really tight. Jarvis, keep an eye on his time. 17.5 last time around. 17.1 by Felipe Nasr. 16.8 from Renger van der Zande. Those two are back at it again, and you've got to think that van der Zande is not happy being the second best Cadillac here, and he's trying to chase down the red and white Whelen car as they head towards their last handful of laps. Where was that other battle that we were keeping an eye on? Gabby Aubrey, Tower Motorsport, still sitting looking in the back of Ryan Diel's Aero Motorsport, Oregon. He'll know every screw head, every chip, every squashed fly on the back of that car by the time he gets to the end of the race. I don't think he's been much over it. I think it was once when we mentioned he was a second back, and he's not been much more than that for all of this final stint, to be honest. DL got by, and then Aubrey has just been in the wheel tracks of that Aero Motorsport car ever since.
He has, and all the time, Mikkel Jensen has pulled away at the front. He's now over 55 seconds ahead he is now of Ryan Diel. So Ryan clearly struggling towards the end of this race. Gabby Aubrey, just like Renger van der Zande, just can't find a way past that identical, other than paint schemes, a hit car ahead of him. And meanwhile, Tristan Nunez, he was 36 seconds behind that battle for second place. That gap is now down to less than 20. So he's not going to catch him, I don't think, but Nunez is catching them at a pretty rapid rate.
Under the last 5 minutes to go then, Hyundai Monterey SportsCar Championship for the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Series here. And your leader is coming down to what in 3 laps time or so will be the final corner. Turn 11 runs to the start-finish line under the bridge.
Yeah, there'll be 3 laps.
It's been a very measured run by the Konica Minolta team.
Yeah, perfect.
You know, they've done everything that you'd expect them to do. Main Taylor Racing, they know which way is up, and they know how to run a race car. Meantime, the battle for second certainly isn't resolved yet. Very close call in the Mario Andretti hairpin through to turn 3 now, and they've got the leader in LMP2 right ahead of them. He's lapping again in a similar place, but they make their pace similar pace, but they make their lap time slightly differently, the LMP2 cars. Of course, the DPI is based on a similar chassis concept as the P2s. It's going to be the other way around for the next set of P2s. The next set of P2s are going to be based on the DPIs. Expect to see some sneaky little pictures of the first LMDH cars in the next couple of months. So van der Zande, target acquired, heading down the hill to the final corner for them through turn number 10. Jensen, one side for the P2 leader, the other side for the second place, and this might be an opportunity for van der Zande as the P2 went wide under the auspices of Mikkel Jensen, and van der Zande is in the hole in the air being made by the red and white Whelen car defends to the inside. Felipe Nasr then goes out wide in the middle of the corner. There's a little touch between the right front of the lighter coloured car. They're side by side through turn 3. There's a puff of dust and sand as the left rear Michelin is off the track from Nasr. And that was a robust move, to say the least. But Renger van der Zande has claimed second position with 2 minutes and 18 seconds to go. Now, what's Nasr got? Because if he's got anything, he's got to get up the road. I don't think he has. I think van der Zande has, with those 4-lap younger tyres, has had that grip advantage. He's used it there perfectly well in cutting through the traffic. And he's claimed second position, Jeremy. Great driving from both of them. Traffic played its part, but van der Zande knew that that was possibly his one and only opportunity, and he really pushed it right on the bounds of fairness. Do you reckon that?
Yeah, you know, that was a very, very forceful move there, the inside of turn 3. I mean, but the door was open. I don't think our race director is going to do anything about that. I mean, if the Nasr had closed the door, there wouldn't have been anything that van der Zande could do to get down there. But the door was definitely open. He chucked it in there. There was going to be contact at that stage, no question about it. But you know, I think Nasr could have done more to prevent the likelihood of that move being made. So, you know, hats off there to Renger van der Zande. Hats off also to Nasr, because, you know, he could have done something silly at that stage, and he didn't, because he knows how important the championship is. That's not good for Cadillac in some ways, because the number 31 car is best paced of the Cadillac teams in the championship, trying to track down the Ricky Taylor, Philip Albuquerque car. So the number 31 car needs as many points as it can get. It's going to lose points already with number 10 winning this race, which is likely to do.
And indeed, there was a little bit of celebration on the pit wall from Wayne Taylor when that pass was made. Now, Renger van der Zande, he's still very well thought of by Wayne Taylor, has driven for him in the past, but also that's points taken away from one of their championship contending cars. We're on the final lap, 2.25 miles, when the number 10 car went across the line for the Cunningham & Alta Acura ARX05 team. Ricky Taylor, having taken on this car, having when it was started, qualified and started by his teammate, and that seems a very long time ago now, when that pit stop was made.
By the way,
say again, Jeremy, sorry?
I think the number 5 car just came in for a splash of fuel.
Ah, well, there you go.
Lap to go.
Yeah, agreed. Like Duval, they were the ones who kept doing the early stops, weren't they?
Whoops.
And that is one of the advertising hoardings has been picked up by a prototype car. For a moment I thought it was the leader. It's not. Philippe Albuquerque started the race. Ricky Taylor is going to finish it for Cunningham & Alta Acura, and they will take the victory and extend their championship lead in the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship and the Hyundai Sports Car event here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It's been a good weekend for Wayne Taylor and the team. Also a good weekend for PR1 Matheson Motorsports, as Mikkel Jensen, having set a new lap record below the previous lap record for DPI, but he's in an LMP2 car, finishing off some great work in qualifying and early on in the race by Ben Keating. It will be Nick Tandy who wins GT Le Mans, and he'll be scored as the only GT Le Mans car on the lead lap, I think, because of where the leader went through. Tandy with the lap, the best lap as well for that number 4 Corvette racing car. I think it was. I think that was DL. It was a blue prototype, Jeremy. I think that was the Era car, and that has dropped down to 4th position in class. So Aubrey goes through in 2nd. That means Tristan Nunez just 13 seconds adrift, by the way, by the end. He really pulled that gap down. So Nunes for Win Autosport will be on the podium with his teammate Stephen Thomas, who started the car. And in GT Daytona, Faf Porsche wins. Oh no. Right, hang on. I've got a squirrely timing screen. Faf Motorsports Porsche does win the number 9 car. 5 seconds in the end. Steady race for Paul Miller Racing for the Lamborghini Huracan. So what happened to... Oh no, it was a spin for the lead for the... well, it was definitely Ryan Diallo who picked up one of the Haggerty stand.
It was Aubry that spun.
It was Aubry that spun.
Was there contact between the two of them? Did it cause them to spin?
Right in front of the leader of the race as well. Well, on such small margins, do championships sometimes get decided? So Aubry spun in the Tower Motorsport number 8 car. In avoiding him, DL went off and picked up one of the Haggerty Motorsport signs and then couldn't see, I think, and had to slow down. Was Aubry already ahead, or were they side by side, Jeremy? They had been very close indeed, those two, battling for second position. Yeah,
I mean, he was ahead coming down the hill. Where he got past him, I didn't see, but he was ahead of, he was the first car to go off the road, and DL went off behind him. But whether there was contact that caused that to happen, I don't know, because I think whatever incident there was between those two was unseen, initially at least. Wow, that's a dramatic end to the race.
Yeah, for them, and that was a battle for second position. And Ryan DL and Era Motorsport, the number 18 car that he shares with Drake Merriman, they drop off a podium position there. Let me finish GT Daytona. Faf Motorsports, Paul Miller, and Wright Motorsports, a second Porsche on the podium. Well, the sound of great celebrations in front of Bibendum, the Michelin man from Messrs Taylor and Van der Zande. Messrs Taylor and Albuquerque. Very good indeed, I'd agree with that. Shea Adam, your thoughts from our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report?
Well, that got a little bit spicy there, didn't it, at the end? Yeah, trying to get a hold of some of our winners to see if we can get interviews, but you can't exactly blame them for not checking their messages right now. Faf Motorsport coming home with their 3rd win of the season, 2nd in a row. And how about Tommy Milner and Nick Tandy winning their first points race as a duo, having gotten the win at Belle Isle a little bit earlier this year? I feel that this is the first of many for Tandy and Milner.
Our very great thanks to all of the teams, and particularly their public relations staff and media staff, for making sure that we got all the information from the pit lane. Also our technical staff on site under Tyler Norling, everybody at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and over in Charlotte at NASCAR Productions, Keith D'Alessandro, Elisa, thank you very much indeed. Alex as well on audio there, as well as our team in London, Kes Cobb, Tim Gray, and of course the responsible adult Eve Hewitt, without whom none of this would be possible. Jeremy Shaw was alongside me, John Hindorf in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, and Shea Adam gave us the VP Racing Fuels Pits and Paddock reports. On IMSA Radio RS2, we'll be doing it again in a couple of weeks' time. Similar part of the world, similar time zone, shorter race, and on the streets of Long Beach for the Long Beach Grand Prix. Stay with us for Michelin Post Race Tech. We'll hand the PA system here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca over to our colleagues in the Victory Circle area for the formalities, and Post Race Tech, Michelin Post Race Tech, comes up next here on RS2 IMSA Radio. Bye for now.